This podcast is brought to you by the Arte Media Pantheon. Please head to artemedia.org to see lots of other podcasts from our great friends. And if you would like to start your own podcast, they can provide you with the tools and resources to do so there. So that's artemedia.org. That's ARETE media.org. On with the show, everybody. On with the show, folks. On with the show, guys.
On with the show.
This is it. Yeah. Welcome to the Spur of the Moment podcast, everybody. I, as always, be, am, he, be, they, be, we. I be Justin Spurr. And as always, I'm joined forever, as always, attached to the hip. We are, he is, they be. Is this bit got old yet?
I'm incomparable.
It's the incomparable Jordan, everybody. He's here. Jordan, how are you this week?
1-0-0. 1-0-0.
Whoa, don't give it away. I asked you a question.
I'm pretty good. 1-0-0.
Let me, Jordan, how many times do I have to say, yeah, let me get through the intro, then we're gonna get there.
I'm sorry.
He's bursting with excitement.
I'm excited.
He's bursting with excitement. Yes.
I'm sorry. I arrived too soon.
He arrived too soon. It's hey, it happens to all of us every once in a while. Okay. Yes, as my esteemed co-host. God, it's gonna be a weird show. My esteemed co-host he's pointed out. Today's a very special episode of the Spur of the Moment podcast, everybody. It's our 100 subscriber special. Yes, we have officially have 100 subscribers on this channel. We're very excited. Special shout out to our 100 subscriber. I don't know how internet famous they want to be, so I won't say their name. But if they want to shout themselves out in the comment, it's a good friend of mine. She was our 100 subscriber. They were our 100 subscriber. Thank you very much for pushing us over that finish line.
You get a round of applause.
Round of applause. Nailed it. Yes, we leapt up. Also, special shout out to new friend of the channel, Allie, from Literature and Lingerie, because you're really man, you 3 subscribers from your videos alone. We jumped up like 12 subscribers this week. So just welcome one and all. As a refresher for those of you who are new, we talk about the movie news. We make fun of the people in the Hollywood, and then we do a general media analysis where we make fun of movies and TV.
Sounds about
it?
Right.
That was it? Did I get it all?
I think you got it all.
I got it all right.
And we look good doing it.
And we wear fabulous shirts. Rule number 1 about being a podcaster: always wear your logo. Ding. Anyway, on today's show, apparently they already
are shameless.
We're shameless. We're gonna talk about Mickey 17 trailer. We got some Sonic 3 concept art, which hints at what possibly may or may not happen in the future of that franchise. We got it's awards season, so we're gonna talk about some Oscar nominations. I'm gonna attempt to make Jordan care about the Oscars temporarily.
Spoiler alert. He won't.
He probably won't. We got some news about some razzies. It's award season. When is Sonic 4 coming out? I've got a news here that says something about Ryan Gosling and Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know what the stories are. We'll find that out as we get through the show. And then later, you've seen the title. It's clones. It's clones. And we will definitely have a 100% nuanced and enlightened discussion about the ethics of not only eugenics, but clones. We're definitely going to do the Arnold voice at least once. There's an Arnold movie coming. Get the out! Do the eye test! That's a bad impression. It's not going to get better. Okay, let's start with the news. Jordan, I knew that they were making Ted season 2. They already done it. One and done. Like, they're done already on season 2 of Ted. And I look, it's interrupting my Orville, me and Jake talk a lot about the Orville, how much we love the Orville. It's getting in the way of my Orville, but I really like that first season. Like I've seen a lot of clips of it, and it's very funny.
I've not watched the Ted show because I I don't like the character enough to want a show.
Yeah, but it's good. It honestly is.
I always kind of felt this way about it. Um, I don't need a different variation, a third or fourth or fifth variation of Family Guy, which is all Ted is to me.
I mean, yeah, that is true. That show is it's just like to the point that like there's a lot of like you could tell. Okay, how to put this? You remember in like season 1 of Family Guy that how they had that recurring bit of the guy sitting around being like, "What would you rather do? Like, would you rather make out? Would you rather kiss like the most beautiful woman you ever saw, or I don't want to finish this sentence. You know the bit.
I don't. I mean, I'm sure I would recognize it if I saw it. But anyways, your point.
Like oh yeah. Anyway, they do that bit a lot on Ted, like a lot. You could just tell that that's a bit that comes directly from Seth MacFarlane. That because it just hasn't popped up in modern Family Guy, but there it is in Ted. It's like a 10-year-old Family Guy joke.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to have more Orville. Orville is a more nuanced show.
Oh, it's a much better show for sure.
And it's just generally very different than the Family Guy style of humor. It's Seth MacFarlane getting to actually act.
Yeah, but I mean, if we must get this show, I'm not unhappy to get it.
I'm gonna say it. Cancel Ted and go back to the Orville.
Hashtag go back to the Orville.
That's the official position of the incomparable Jordan.
Well, it's interesting because it took him. I guess whatever they did to make this show has become easy because that show came out like last year. So if they're already done season 2, like that's fast. So the turnaround on this is good. That means that maybe he can do it like on the off years. To be fair to the Orville is very expensive, so that's why that doesn't get done as quickly. This is, I guess, probably less expensive because Ted doesn't do a ton on that show. But that show is funny. I won't take away from the fact that show is funny. It's more like American Dad at its best than Family Guy at its worst, if that makes sense.
That's fair. I never had an interest in it. I saw the 2 movies and I was like, that's enough. I'm good. I'm good. Also, you keep flashing green, and I can't figure out why.
I switched USB ports, so either it's something to do with the camera, which I don't see how, or it's a Discord thing. I could believe it's a Discord thing.
It's just if it is the camera, that's aggravating because that
it can't be. There's no way. There's no way it is.
Like it's so new.
What Jordan? In the pantheon of things, sorry, we're gonna derail the show to complain about tech issues. In the pantheon of tech issues we've had on this show, Jordan, pantheon. How many of them have been Discord related? Remember the period of time where you were upside down?
I mean, I do remember that.
Remember when you were like, I went through shorts for this. Remember when you were like, when you had to do the show vertically, otherwise you were upside down? So you were tiny?
Remember when my camera would like make the screen beige and I had to wipe my hand across it to clear my face as if I had like sand or snow on my camera?
Yeah, like that, all Discord. So this I could entirely believe is just like a couple weeks from now it'll just stop.
I could believe
it's
that.
Not. Anyways. It can't be computer related because reasons. Anyways, let's figure out. So Jordan, this story begins Benedict. So clearly, Jordan, it's about Benedict Cumberbatch. Let's find out together what the story headline is. Benedict Cumberbatch reveals if Doctor Strange will be in Avengers Doomsday. Benedict Cumberbatch is opening up about Doctor Strange's future in the MCU. Jordan, what do you think? Let's play Marvel Answer Roulette, Jordan. Who do you think he said? And do you think it's... Ooh, I can't reveal any details at this time.
I think he said, well, I can't confirm or deny whether or not Doctor Strange is in that movie that you just said. But I'm excited by the possibility that maybe he could potentially be there.
Huh. Interesting. Wow, we were wrong. We were very wrong. He straight up said he's not. Okay, here's the thing, right? When it comes to Marvel, they lie, But as of right now, he straight up said no. He said Doctor Strange will not be in it because this part of the story does not align with his character. But he said he noted that he also noted that the script changed in a major way after Kang was removed from it. So he might be, but he said he will definitely be in a lot of Secret Wars.
Because I was going to say, I disagree with that statement entirely. His character absolutely could mesh with Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom is a well-known magic user.
Oh, I know. I think he's just saying it matter-of-factly. He's just saying, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm just not in that movie. Like, not that they don't mesh. He will literally not be in that movie because his character is not involved in that story, is what he's saying.
Well, I mean, but to be fair, that could have been about the Kang aspect.
That's kind of what he's saying, exactly. Yeah, he's saying that, to be fair, that was before, but he's saying he will definitely be in Secret Wars.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Fair enough. I'll choose to believe that maybe he's not lying through his teeth.
I will choose to believe that. Let's see.
But Justin, look at me, Justin. But we can agree that it is entirely possible he's lying through his teeth.
Oh, he's probably in it in some capacity. Maybe at the end, probably. I imagine it'll probably be a similar, or they'll do a better job of, the first one will be about the first half of the characters, and the second half will be about the second half of the characters. I did see this about What If, that people were like, yeah, that show kind of pretends, and I imagine that those Avengers movies will do a similar thing, that these characters have interacted a lot more than they have. They haven't really.
They'll just really make reference to them hanging out off screen. Kind of like with
MCU does best.
Kind of like with what Endgame did, where they just all of a sudden 5 years later all work together.
So
time jump.
So I sent you a bunch of concept art about Sonic 3. That was interesting. One of the images was of what looked to be like Emperor Eggman next to a metal Sonic, which I've seen a bunch of theories of how Eggman could come back and all that, or where Metal Sonic is coming from. I maintain that those Metal Sonics are from the future. That's and I think part of my theory has changed though, where I think it's maybe potentially Eggman got shot into the future. And they're because then that way they could, because there were all these rumors that the fourth one will involve Silver, and I still think there's still a chance, because that would be like a Shadow the Hedgehog. Although that having been said, they did reveal the logo for Sonic 4, and in the tradition of each of the logos representing the character who's the major character. So with or who the character, I think it was the character who was revealed in the previous movie. So the Sonic 2 logo is yellow for Tails, and then the Sonic 3 logo is it's colored for Shadow, and then the Sonic 4 logo is pink for Amy. So that indicates that it indicates that movie will be maybe more about Amy. I did see some cool ideas for Amy. I saw someone say they should do it where Amy's a bit older, and instead of Amy having a crush on Sonic, Sonic has a crush on Amy.
Yeah, I saw one where
that would be fun. That'd be a fun subversion.
Where somebody said something similar, where it was basically they said that it should be where, because Sonic has hung out with his female parents, it's not female, human parents rather, Amy, like he should have the crush on Amy and want to be he wants to be the donut lord essentially. He
Yeah,
wants to be with Amy.
well, yeah,
And that would be the switch up and the change from the standard Amy is obsessed with Sonic.
They've definitely kind of sort of set that up in the sense that like her appearance indicates that she's a kind of a badass. Yeah, like that's where she's also giving me the vibe because her outfit has a very dystopian kind of vibe to it. And like if that's Amy, there's really only one reason why. That's why I'm like I'm guessing she's like a John Connor type character. Like she's come from the future.
So I maintain my theory.
Not John Connor. Sorry, Kyle Reese.
I maintain my theory, which it works in such a capacity where it could be Robotnik or it could be Metal Sonic, depending on whether or not Jim Carrey wants to come back.
Yeah.
Where basically Metal Sonic was already built, because quite realistically, Eggman Ivo has known about Sonic for years at this point. So the idea that he had already had the body of Metal Sonic and he needed a quill to power it, and that's what the quill was about, is entirely believable to me. And then I see it being a thing where either if Jim Carrey comes back, then we find out that Amy comes from a future where Robotnik took over, and that's where we get that concept art of Metal Sonic standing beside him and the royalty and all that. Or if Jim Carrey doesn't come back, they could also do it where Robotnik didn't survive, Metal Sonic was still powered up, and he becomes Metal Overlord, and then at that point it's Terminator.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
And she's come back from the future where Metal Sonic has taken over, and it's still the same story but without robots.
Because I could see them doing a thing where like the way to evolve Silver is maybe Silver is the one who sends her back in time. Like
I could see that
because like her vibe is really giving me like dystopian. I'm from the future vibe. It's just giving that for me.
I could see where basically Silver, instead of being Silver, he's Blaze the Cat, where he's the one that's sending her back.
Yeah.
And he slides into that role, basically.
Because then you could
I could absolutely see them doing that.
Because then you could do, like, one major action sequence where, like, where it's the future, and then you have Silver there, and he's really only just there for the one scene. I could absolutely see that.
But it also basically what they could do is they could have it be where Amy, that scene happens, and Amy is like, I need you to come back with me to the future so you can help us defeat Metal Sonic. She takes him back to the future. That's where we see Silver, we see the dystopian side, and then they realize that they can't beat him there and have to beat him in the past. And that's when they go back to the past and we fight Metal Sonic as normal Metal Sonic and not Metal Overlord or something.
Probably something like that. But yeah, I'm even more positive now than ever. I'm like, I think that the fourth one's going to involve time travel. I'm pretty confident.
I think Amy is from the future. This is
really throwing me from a loop if it wasn't.
This is my if this happens, I'll be like, I called that phone. But my thing is, I think Amy is from the future. Metal Sonic is not.
I think they're both from the future.
I think Metal Sonic
just because
all those other versions where he looked like, because there's one in that scene, there's one Metal Sonic who's blue and the rest are like blackish, which implies that he built those other versions of himself.
But my thing is that this version of Eggman, his robots aren't there aesthetically for him to be at a point where he would make a video game accurate Metal Sonic. He's just not at that point where I believe.
I don't know. I've seen some of his machines and stuff, and they look like
if there were some if by like this one,
I would agree. I would agree with you if in the second one we hadn't seen him in the Death Egg robot.
Yeah, you're right. But at the same time, in this one, there's he's getting there, but just how accurate that version of Sonic is. But to be fair, also, a Metal Sonic is. But also, to be fair,
they could also easily explain that away by saying that this robot, like Metal Sonic, Gerald helped him build it.
Yeah.
They could. It would be lazy, and I wouldn't like that. But they could easily explain that away.
That all having been said, this franchise is notorious at this point. We're 3 wins in. They've done it three times where they kind of just get close enough of doing this well, and then kind of don't. Like, we tend to be more clever than these movies are by like a country mile. So
you're not wrong.
I don't think they're gonna. I think at best Amy's from the future, but I definitely think she's from the future. Like, I definitely think that's gonna be her arc in this.
I think she's from the future, and Metal Sonic.
Whether or not the rest of it is up for debate, but and then Sonic 4. Sonic 4 is coming out March 19th, 2027. In 2 years.
I would have guessed 2026.
2027 is about. I mean, that's about right. These movies usually seem to have about a 2-year production window, so that does kind of make. So my I guess our final bit about Sonic 4. Who would you stunt cast as Amy? But here's the caveat: you're stunt casting. You got to stunt cast. Got to pick someone famous, but they're famous, but they're also surprisingly good. I saw some good ones, and I'm totally. One I think I saw was Kristen Bell.
Yeah, I could see Kristen Bell.
Because you need to get an Idris Elba or like a Keanu Reeves. Where oh wow, they're actually putting the effort in.
For whatever reason, the first name that comes to mind for me is Mila Kunis. Mila Kunis.
I feel like she put in the work. You've got to be someone who's going to put in the work.
Yeah.
They can't half-ass it.
But those, I could see Kristen Bell. Maybe. I don't know though. I was gonna say maybe Jennifer Aniston, but I think she's too old.
Yeah, she's a little too old. Yeah, no, you need someone who's got a younger sounding voice.
Yeah.
You gotta get that falsetto in there.
Yeah. I don't know who I would choose. I'd have to think about. I would have to think about that one.
So Jordan, let's talk about the Oscar nominations. Jordan, most of these nominations you won't care about, and I won't bother you with. Really, Jordan, you just want to know about the one. I mean, you want to know that The Substance, the gross movie we talked about before, and is a wildly successful video you can watch. I believe the YouTube video is called "The Substance is Gross and Weird and I Don't Get It." It's around 200 views. You can check it out. That movie's weird and gross and I don't get it, and it got nominated for a bunch of Oscars. Also, Wicked got nominated for a bunch of Oscars.
Okay.
Those are the only two you'll really care about, until the one you actually want to know about, which is the Best Animated category. That's the one you want to know about.
I mean,
I'm stalling, Jordan. Yeah. I'm stalling.
Yeah, I could stand to learn about that one.
Or Best Visual Effects is another one you want. So, Jordan, the nominees for Best Visual Effects are as follows: Alien Romulus, Better Man, which I gotta watch Better Man. I gotta know if that's a worthy nomination or not.
All men know me, Better Man.
That's the one where it's the you came home and I was like, do you know who Robbie Williams is? And you went, do you mean Robin Williams? Better Man is a biopic. You remember the Pharrell?
Do you mean Robin Williams?
No. You remember that Pharrell Williams biopic where it's a biopic but it's Lego?
I do recall.
There's this musician. I guess he's really popular in the UK. He did one of those, but it was it's a biopic, but he's a monkey. He's a CGI monkey, and apparently it's quite good. But yeah, it got nominated for Best Visual Effects. Dune Part 2, and then Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Wicked, really interesting. I'm probably rooting for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Although I don't know, we quite liked Alien Romulus. The special effects of that were quite good. But the one you want to know is Best Animated Feature, which is as follows: Flow, which I actually do want to see. It's a really beautifully looking animated movie about a cat. It's apparently really good. Inside Out 2. It's about a cat. Yeah, black cat.
Interesting.
Or at the very least, it has a black cat in it, and the animation looks really good. Inside Out 2, a memoir of a snail, which I'm not familiar with, and then The Wild Robot. I will, of course, be rooting for The Wild Robot, but I would like to watch Flow.
I will be rooting for The Wild Robot as well.
And then I think that's just kind of it. That's it. Those are the only ones that you'd be interested in. Jordan doesn't care about Best Actor, Best Actress, or Best Picture. Although The Substance got nominated for Best Picture, and I'm like, just the idea of the Academy, just like a group of like just the crustiest, oldest white people, just having to watch The Substance, just it brings me a joy that I don't know that I can quite articulate, other than it just lights the inside of my dark soul. God, I didn't like that movie. Just, I cannot stress you, that was really gross. There's a friend of mine on Facebook was like, he was happy. His endorsement of this movie was that it made him vomit, or nearly made him vomit.
That's not a good thing.
That's not an endorsement for an Academy Award-nominated movie.
It's not an endorsement for any movie. I'm sorry.
Right? No. Yeah, no, it's really gross. And it got nominated for an Oscar, which means I get to spend an entire Oscar season crapping all over it. And I'm not going to lie, I'm looking forward to it.
Someone has to.
So, since we're talking about cloning, I'm kind of disappointed this movie didn't come out before I decided to do a cloning episode. I don't know that there's enough cloning stuff to mine a second episode out of this. But the trailer for Mickey 17, I sent it to Jordan because I watched it. Because when I was on, I think it was Toon Talk, Jake asked me if the reason we were doing cloning was because of this movie. And I said, no, unrelated. So I watched the trailer because of that, and honestly, the movie looks kind of fun.
It looks okay. It looks like one that I'd put on for streaming. Right?
It looks like one I'd watch for this show. I'll find another reason to watch it. We'll do an episode about Robert Pattinson. I don't know. Apparently, the voice he's doing for that movie is based on Steve-O. Once he said that, I was like, you know what? I see it. I hear it.
Steve-O from Jackass?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I know, right? I was like, oh yeah, I hear it. For I guess people who don't know what Mickey 17 is, I don't know the full story of it. I know that it's based on a
movie.
It's based on a manga I think it's called Mickey 9, I think, or Mickey 10, I think is what it's called. And he's a guy. He signs up, from what I can glean from the trailer, he signs up to be like a disposable worker, and part of that is they could just endlessly clone him to just kind of do whatever. And then the trailer doesn't really give much of what it's about. That just kind of seems to be it. But yeah, his voice in it reminded me a lot of the Heron in The Boy and the Heron. That's what it reminded me of. Yeah. But yeah, it looks fun. Fair. It looks fun. I'm kind of excited for it. Jordan, the Joker 2 Doing a Poo, or Joker 2 Did a Poo, as it's known in international markets. It got 7 Razzie nominations. Jordan, do you know what do I need to remind you what the Razzies are?
Aren't the Razzies basically when it's bad?
It's the award show for when it's bad, which is not. It's not a very good award show. And we really shouldn't do it, but. I think this one deserves it. Hold on. Where is it? Oh yeah, I got worst director and I think worst movie by the looks of this article. Worst director and worst movie, which good. That movie's bad. Next. Got a story about Ryan Gosling. What is this about? Oh, right. Okay, yeah. I've got this. The final story of the day is Ryan Gosling is going to be in Sean Levy's Star Wars movie, which made me go, Sean Levy's getting a Star Wars movie? Sean Levy, Jordan, because Jordan's bad with names, for those of you who don't know. He's the director who directed Deadpool.
I am bad with names.
He's bad with names. He's the director who directed Deadpool and Wolverine. And Adam Project, and yeah, that guy.
Okay.
So
Fair.
I really like how I like his style of action. Like it's so clean and easy to follow. Like I don't know, what is he? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, his choreography in the Deadpool movies in particular
Yeah.
are primo.
Yeah, it's just easy to follow, good, solid action sequences. I really liked his stuff, and I praise it constantly, but I really liked his action in the Atom Project. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'd watch that with light. I think I said at the time, I was like, I'd watch that with lightsabers.
Yeah, absolutely, I would.
No, actually, sorry, I lied. I have one more news item. Not really a news item, but that new Spider-Man show is out, and I haven't watched it. Or it's coming out, I think. I don't know if it's out yet, but I've been watching some stuff about it, and there's some interesting stuff. I still think it looks fun, but it looks like they're still quasi committing to, or maybe at one point it was going to be a Tom Holland show because it looks like he still does the Civil War fight. But like, there's like,
I mean, didn't we? Again, we knew right from the beginning that it was supposed to be a Tom Holland one.
yeah, but I thought that they were just going to cut that stuff out. But it looks like now from what I can tell, instead of being friends with Tony Stark, Captain America is now friends with this
Norman.
Yeah, this universe's version of Norman Osborn.
So this version of he's just Iron Man.
He's just
Iron Man.
My guess, if I had to guess, I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see an alternate universe version of the Iron Patriot. Just don't be surprised, and he just straight up becomes Iron Man.
Yeah.
I mean,
I could believe
hey,
it.
look, man, Elseworld story, why not? And I still like the art style. I'm still going to check this out. I don't.
It's not that I don't like a good one. It just feels lazy. It feels lazy.
Yeah, I mean,
he's just Iron Man.
I mean, yeah, we'll have to see. I guess we'll have to see how it pays off. That's my thing with stuff like this. Is it all depends on how it pays off. If it ends up meaning something, or if it's for something interesting, then in service of something interesting, then why not? Why not? Yeah. Anything can be good.
I guess. I don't know.
That's it, Jordan. That's the news. Jordan, hit the news theme. What was that?
That was me trying something new.
Jordan, it's a bit. Jordan, it's a bit. It's a bit. It's a bit. You know what you were doing. You knew what this was. Jordan, before I tell you...
I just thought I'd try something new.
I mean, all right, I respect it. I respect the effort, at the very least. Jordan, before I tell you about today's new sponsor, I have to tell you a story. I have to tell you about my life, my childhood, Jordan, what I liked growing up. And what I liked growing up was audiobooks. And the problem I always had...
like audiobooks.
The problem I had with audiobooks, Jordan, was the cumbersome nature of wanting to listen to a long book over the course of many CDs. I like listening to audiobooks while I drive, and I'd have to swap the CDs like an animal, and it was just such
or VHS, or a cassette.
It's just such a major inconvenience, Jordan. But with today's sponsor, and in the modern era with MP3s, you no longer have to do that. Because with today's sponsor, Audible, Jordan, if you use...
Wait. Audible?
If you use the link in our description, Jordan, you can sign up for an Audible account, and what you get a credit that you can use on any of their library, okay? And they're never going to charge you more than $14.95 a month. And, Jordan, and you can cancel at any time you want, and you get to keep the books that are already in your library at no cost to you.
It's bold of you to talk to me as if I don't know what Audible is. I use Audible a lot and can speak very highly of the quality of the audio recordings that they use and that they put on their service.
And Jordan, the beautiful thing about Audible that I love as someone who doesn't, unlike you, who uses the service almost every single day, and can guarantee its quality, Jordan, I, as someone who only gets to listen to it maybe once or twice a week, the beautiful thing is Audible remembers where you were the last time you were listening. So you can just jump right back into the story at the point you left off. Jordan, right now, today, in fact, I'm currently listening to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And as you pointed out, there's quality premium audio that you can hear clearly. They're all great stories. Another one that I listen to that's great is the Sandman audio drama. Well acted. I believe it's an Audible original. And it's all stuff you can get on Audible. If you use our link in the description, not only do you get a great service out of Audible, but you help the show and theoretically help us get paid. Don't you want us to help us get paid? You want to help us get paid. So use the link in the description. Sign up for Audible. Just do it.
And then tell us what books you're listening to
Absolutely.
using your Audible.
Absolutely. Audible, another service that helps makes the show, because we listen to audiobooks for the show.
Yeah.
And we're very excited.
As the audience knows, I recently re-listened to a bunch of the Harry Potter books, and even when I didn't we were done doing that episode, I kept listening because I could.
I'm the same way with The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've been listening to it, been having a great time. All on Audible. Use the link in the description below to sign up today. Get that free credit. It's a great service. It honestly is.
Do it.
Jordan.
Do it.
Shall we continue on with the show?
Do it. Do it. Yes. Do it.
Do
yes,
it.
We should.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it. So today's show, this week's topic is clones. We already talked about it earlier. You've been here the whole time.
Clone.
You know it's clones because we talked about it earlier.
It's clones.
But okay, the funny thing about clones this week was, and I'm sure we're going to get into it. Man, different clone stories presented in different.
I'm a clone of Jordan now. I'm a completely different person.
I didn't even leave the frame. I'm still the same guy. It's just thinking about clones that came up. Also, we're sticking some multiverse in there as well because there wasn't enough clone stuff. But no, joking aside, there turned out to be a surprising amount of ethics in each of these cloning movies that were different. It was kind of wild. Jordan, you go first. What's your first thing? Rapid fire. It's rapid fire time. Right, for those of you who are new to the program, because for those of you who don't know, this is our 100 subscriber special, I guess, because we picked up 12 subscribers.
All right. You are very, very excited right now. You just need to take a deep breath and retard that excitation level by 3 notches.
I will. Anyway, for those of you who are new to the program, breaks down in this fashion. First, we do rapid fire. Rapid fire is just the stuff you got off the top of your head. Then we do first half scenes. That's the stuff you want to get into the more detail about. And then have not scenes. That's the stuff you have not seen. There we go.
And we do that all after the news.
All after the news. Here. Let's Rub Month Podcast. So what's your first rapid fire?
My first rapid fire is a Will Smith movie where you have old Will Smith and he teams up with somewhat creepy CGI not CGI face.
I mean, you mean Will of the Uncanny Valley?
That's the word. Thank you. Will of the Uncanny Valley, who looks like a somewhat younger version, Will of
the upsetting Valley.
And so
no, I didn't think it was that bad. I jest.
Young Will is trying to kill old Will, and it's a romp, Justin. I don't think it's actually a romp.
I don't think it's a romp.
It's fine.
It's all right. I thought it was okay. I will say, yeah, we're making fun of it, but I didn't think the effect was that bad.
Oh, it's not. I've definitely seen worse effects. But it is it's not like the one Ghostbuster or the dude from Star Wars.
Oh yeah. It's not
like it's not like one of those. It's At least he's alive and can give consent to
Yeah,
using an
it's not
AI image of
creepy.
him.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
I will say, like, as a fan of like the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, like, and someone who's like very familiar of that, like that era of Will Smith, it looks like him, and like he's doing a halfway decent approximation of him. And movies like this, we're gonna get into this, kind of live and die on his ability to interact with himself. This is a bit easier because I'm guessing it was probably done with a stand-in that they just CGI'd the face over top of.
Oh, probably. If I had to guess, yeah,
Uh,
I would agree.
doesn't it end though with like him raising his own clone and like sending him off to university?
I think so. This was a beginning of the week thing, so you'll have to forgive. I'm just gonna. I'll see if I can double check. Hold on. Hold on. This is proving more irritating than I would have liked. Filming, visual effects, release. Where is the summer plot? There it is. Collecting Danner, Junior Henry.
Huh.
Defeated, Clay tries to justify his actions to Junior. Clones with Henry's skills would spare the lives of soldiers while making operations incredibly easy. Junior shoots Clay. Henry persuades him otherwise and does it himself. Yeah, Henry later meets with Junior, who has enrolled in college under the assumed identity of Jackson Brogan, after Henry's mother's surname. Together, Henry and Danny plan Jackson's future. Kind of like a weird surrogate son.
Right?
Which is himself.
Which is himself. From when he was, in order to give him another opportunity to not be him, I guess.
Yeah, it's fine. It's a fine movie.
I thought it was alright.
I have no complaints about it.
Yeah, I think it got pretty savage critically, but I didn't think it was as bad as people said it was.
Well, here's what I'll say. It had a budget of $138 million, and it had a box office of $173.5 million. So, I would say it probably didn't do as well as they had hoped it would.
Probably not. Probably not. Alright. So is that all you have to say about Gemini Man?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
It could be better.
It could be better, but it's fine.
My first one. Okay, so here's a fun fact about me. I used to work late. We all know about. I used to work at the movie theater. I talk about it all the time. But when I worked at the movie theater, I used to work the late night.
I've never
Shut up.
heard that.
Shut up! You're gonna do that bit. Yeah, shut up. Shut up. But I used to work the night shift, and so I used to watch a lot of really bad late night like B movie comedies that just weren't very good, and that I used to really like. And one of my favorite ones was a movie called Replicate, that for some reason has Eugene Levy in it as an evil scientist. It's very funny, but the very basic plot of it is a couple of scientists who are working out of this university have developed this replicator technology, and they're just kind of at the level of cloning biological creatures. So they can only clone like I think it's a hamster or a gerbil, and they accidentally clone a woman, and it's a gross 2000s comedy. Okay. Just bear that in mind when I describe this. But they clone this woman, this incredibly attractive woman, and the bit is, what if we taught a woman to be a man? And then the movie is just basically like,
okay.
She's a woman, but she acts like a guy. You know, like all the cliched stereotypes of like, she only wants to watch sports, and she only wants to have sex.
Leaves the toilet seat up.
Yeah, she wants to have sex. She doesn't want any attachments, and all that
She
sort of
has, yeah,
stuff.
fear of commitment.
Yeah, all that, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, she basically starts acting like a guy, and then the bit becomes, because she's acting like the man in the relationship, then they start to act like the woman in the relationship, and they want to cuddle and talk about their feelings, and it's that kind of movie.
It sounds very pedantic and not
It's
pedantic, but
sexist,
yeah,
a little bit.
offensive,
Yeah,
I
tad.
guess.
Like I say, it's like an early to mid to 2000s like R-rated comedy. But the funniest bit about it though is Eugene Levy is in it with like what looks like a fake mustache. Like it just doesn't look like a real, like it keeps flopping off his face the whole movie, and it just looks like a fake mustache. But the interesting part of this movie, and then we'll move on, is like every time we talk about, I came up against cloning, it became the ethics of it, and the ethics of it in this movie are the ethics of like, and he even brings it up at one point because eventually he sleeps with her, and she tries to get him into bed basically, and he's like, no, this is wrong. You're like 2 days old, and there's all sorts of weird moral implications, and she convinces him to, and it's like, yeah, cloning someone with the intention of like doing. There's an episode of American Dad that this movie reminded me of, where Snot and Steve raise clones to go on prom dates with them. Yeah, and at the end of the episode, they finally do, and Stan's like, "Good on you, bro." And then, yeah, Steve punches him in the face or smacks him in the face or something. And that's what this made me think of like, yeah, there's some, like, the movie tries to get around it by having her, like, very quickly, like, become a person. Like a fully developed-ish for this kind of movie person. So it attempts to be less weird. But it's still kind of weird to me. I'm like, yeah, that does feel like it does kind of cross a form of an ethical line.
I mean, yeah. There's, yeah. So in simplicity, in a later one, there's three clone versions of the guy, and like his first rule is, rule number one, she's my wife. No, like no, and that we'll get in more into that, but yeah. So yeah, no, there's definitely a lot of implications and reasons why cloning is not a thing that humans have, that I know of, done human cloning in real life.
Not that I know of. That's it. That's replicate. It's I still find it funny. There's a sex scene in it in particular that I YouTube friendly, advertiser friendly, can't describe, but it's very funny.
So, a thing that I discovered this week is there are movies that are about clones, and there are movies that just have clones in them.
Yeah.
But they're not the focus. This is one of those movies. ... This is where you say one of which.
One of which.
Exactly, Justin. It's definitely one of those movies.
What?
So this is Monsters vs. Aliens. It's a movie which is not a clone movie. It has clones in it.
Fair. I just realized I watched an extra movie this week. Shoot. That's okay.
Well, it can be cut. So Monsters vs. Aliens, and then there's clones in there too.
There's definitely, and that my next one's gonna be that. Yeah, there's definitely two category of clone movies that are about cloning, and movies that just have clones in them. This is the latter. The climax of this has clones in it, but that's about it.
The alien clones himself, and they have to deal with the consequences of that. But it otherwise is, it's a fun movie. It came out in 2009. It was DreamWorks. It's one which I think is underrated.
It's my second favorite DreamWorks era. I mean, my favorite DreamWorks era is the current DreamWorks era. Like, this is my second, I think it's like the second or third year in a row of me actively rooting for a DreamWorks movie to win at the Oscars.
Although it must have done okay because it had a budget. Sorry, it had a budget of 175 million, and the box office here it says is
Oh yeah, no, it
381.7
did very
million.
well. Yeah, this is my favorite era of DreamWorks movie of when they were doing genre parodies. So like this one is a parody of like B movie
Mon-
50s B
yeah,
movie monster movies.
yeah.
Megamind is a parody of superhero movies, and there's one more in there. I can't remember, but there's one more. That they're all a parody of a genre of movie. And then I think it was Megamind didn't do crazy well, and that's when they stopped doing them. It was like, oh, such a shame because these are some of your better movies. They're certainly you're more creative. Like one of my favorite bits in this is when it's because I still remember the trailer where it was just a bit where Stephen Colbert. As the president walks up and does the da 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 da. His character is really funny in that movie. He's very funny.
I mean, it's got a pretty star-studded cast. You've got Reese Witherspoon as the main character, Seth Rogen as Bob. You've got Hugh Laurie as Dr. Herbert Cockroach, PhD. You got Will Arnett as the missing link, Rainn Wilson as Galaxar, Amy Poehler as and then you got Stephen Colbert as the president, Paul Rudd as Derek.
Just a solidly packed voice cast.
Ed Helms as the news reporter. Like you got a fairly good cast in there, and the comedy absolutely seeps through. And each of the monsters is obviously a parody of well-known monsters.
Yeah.
I enjoy this one, and if you haven't watched it, go watch it.
It's okay. So is that it?
Do it.
Isn't it on Netflix?
Do it. I think I watched it on Amazon.
Oh, fair enough. Is that it, Jordan?
But maybe it was Netflix and I'm wrong. Who could say? That's it. Go on.
So just this next one, Jordan. I was gonna cut it, but then I was like, nah, I shouldn't because the other one that I was gonna do, and I might still talk about it when we get to everything everywhere all at once. But I watched the one, and then I remembered I watched Pluto Nash, and it wasn't on this list, and I was like, that means I could have not watched The Island. But I really want to talk about The Island, so I was like, okay, this will keep my rapid fire completely clone based, and we will have cut out multiverse stuff out of the rapid fire. But anyway. And also because I told you not to do Pluto Nash, and then you could have done Pluto Nash. Anyway, the next one's Pluto Nash.
We do have one multiverse thing, and that's Teen Titans Go.
No. What I'm saying is, I could have given you Pluto Nash because I honestly Anyway, not important. Pluto Nash. So as you mentioned, there's two genre of clone movies. Again, that are about cloning, movies that have clones. This is very much a movie that has clones. It's not a movie that's about cloning. Like clones kind of appear in the story periodically. Like they sort of. So the number one, this is one of the worst movies of all time, or it's considered one of the worst movies of all time. This is going to be one of Justin's classic hot takes. I didn't think it was that bad. I enjoyed it because I find that it's one of those like. Eddie Murphy was trying to be like a serious action star in this movie, so he's playing it really straight. Like he's just like he none of his lines are particularly funny. Like he's not really trying to be funny. He's trying to be like serious, and I think maybe that's why people don't like this movie. It kind of feels like I could see like critics at the time being like, "This is an Eddie Murphy movie. Why is he so flat?" But that's kind of why I did it. Like he's not trying. He's just kind of a decent guy, just trying to get by. I didn't think he was bad. But anyway, so the whole plot of this thing is that he in an opening scene that for the most of the movie doesn't really go anywhere. Like it's an opening scene that you could just cut out. That kind of sets up him. It sets up him getting this. Basically, he's a club owner who runs a club.
Right.
And there's a evil bad guy who is trying to buy up all the clubs on the moon. And he is on the moon, and this gangster's trying to buy up all these casinos. So he can build casinos because they have just legalized gambling. And throughout the movie, it's basically referenced that they made cloning legal and all this stuff. And the Eddie Murphy's best friend, he has a wife, and he had her cloned. So he's got a wife, and then he's got a second wife who is her clone. And so clones kind of pop up in the background throughout the movie, and the entire movie is just him trying to run away from the goons of this bad guy, Crater. And the entire movie, you think it's this like gangster who is played by Alec Baldwin, who just randomly shows up. And the whole bit is, you think that he's trying to cover up the fact that he's a clone, because I guess if he's a clone, he has no rights, I guess. And so the big twist is supposed to be that this gangster is somehow still alive and is a clone. And the entire thing is that gambling on the moon has up until this point been illegal, and they have just legalized it. So this bad guy is trying to buy up all these clubs to basically turn it into Las Vegas, essentially. And so
got it.
You get to the end of the movie, and it turns out, big twist, spoiling the end of this movie, the big bad guy is actually a clone of Pluto Nash.
Dun, dun, dun.
And there's a kind of surprisingly, in my opinion, alright fight sequence between the two that's alright. He's doing an okay job of interacting with himself. And I didn't think it was a bad twist. Like, it's the kind of movie where the twist isn't really the point. But, like, in terms of this kind of movie, I didn't think it was a bad twist. Evil Eddie Murphy is very fun. And I think he basically becomes like... You've seen The Nutty Professor, right? Or The Nutty Professor. You've seen it, right?
I'm aware of it, but no, I don't think I've ever actually watched it.
Oh, really? Okay. Are you familiar with the character of Buddy Love? Like his character in that movie, the one that's not the fat guy?
No.
No, he basically becomes that in this movie. It's one of those movies where, and maybe it's just a case of like, hey, I'm Justin, I enjoy bad movies, but I didn't hate it. Critics probably hated this movie, but I think it's one of those ones that, like, if people went back and watched it now, they'd probably enjoy it ironically. It's just one.
It might develop a cult.
Yeah,
a cult
and it's campy. I think it's fun and it's campy, and there wasn't any humor that sticks out to me as being particularly like egregiously, this is aged badly. It was one of those, like, people have made this out more culturally to be way worse than I thought it was. But yeah, that's Pluto Nash.
So, my next one is Leroy and Stitch. So, for Lilo and Stitch, there was the movie, and then there was the second movie, which then led into the show.
Yes.
And then this is the button hook ending to the show.
This is the series finale to the show.
It's a TV movie.
Yeah. Technically, it's straight to DVD, but...
Okay, Wikipedia says, fictional comedy television film.
Yeah. It considers it a Disney Channel movie, but this very much went straight to DVD. I remember it being advertised. This I very much remember getting it on DVD.
But either way, it is another example of a movie where there's cloning in it, but that's not really what not really.
I believe is a clone of Stitch, to be fair.
Well, no, he's not a clone of Stitch. Jumbo had been working on the next experiment, and Gerbil, Hamsterville, hijacks
I want to be the one who names him. I shall call him Leroy.
Well, he goes through a few other names first, but lands on Leroy. You
get to name all the little creatures. I want to name it this time.
No, so he wasn't directly a clone of Stitch. He was 627. But I
don't think he
had a certain.
I don't think he's 627. I think he's 628.
He is. He's supposed to. No, whatever. Whatever the next one is, he's the newest one.
Because there is an episode of the show where there is an episode of the show where there is actually a 627. Where it's like somehow Jumba gets challenged to create him, and he's like twice as evil as Stitch, and he has 2 heads. Instead of having the 4 arms or whatever, the 6 arms, he now has 2 heads.
Either way,
so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna Google this while you talk.
Either way, Leroy is not a clone of Stitch. Is the point?
No, he's not technically a clone now.
He's not a clone of Stitch, but there is a point in the movie where Hamsterville, being evil and wanting to take over, creates an army of Leroys, which are all clones of each other.
Oh, yeah. Leroy is not, he's not 628, he's 67. Or he's not 67. Well, let's find out.
Yeah, Leroy is 629.
Oh, he's 629. Wait, there's a 628?
I just know that Wikipedia says he's experiment 629.
Huh. It was 628. Oh, it considers 628. It considers 628 when he splits in half. Right. Yeah. So he's 629.
Split in half.
It can say because he has 2 heads. Consider 628 the other head.
Oh.
Because when I type in 628, it just is a picture of the same one. Yeah, as 627.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess it considers them to be 2 different ones. Anyway, wild tangent.
Yeah, wild tangent. So it does involve cloning, but it's not about cloning.
Yeah,
it's about Stitch feeling inadequate.
The big, this one?
Isn't this one about Stitch feeling inadequate? Doesn't he feel inadequate?
No. This one is about Stitch, Jumba, and Pleakley all wanting to return to the stars, and Lilo not wanting them to.
Yeah, that I knew.
And then by the end, they all realize that Ohana is where they want to be, and they go back to Earth.
I do know that. I know that in Japan there's an anime where eventually Stitch does leave. He leaves to go to Japan because there's an episode of that show where adult Lilo shows up.
Oh yeah, really? Huh, that's funny.
Yeah.
But so okay, the thing with this movie is
it's all right.
Yes, there's that. But I was more going to say it's entirely dependent on how much of the show you watch.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the cousins which I see where I'm like, I don't remember that one.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one either.
Yeah, this show does a very good job of showing you all of them, and it's in terms of being a finale to that show, it's a very good series finale.
It absolutely is, but in terms of being its own thing, it's very bad.
It's a little confusing. It's a tad confusing.
But it does. It has a very nice ending. Even Gantu is redeemed, and he gets to go back to being a captain. And Ruben goes with him, and it's cute.
Yeah.
There's really nothing else to say. It's a very basic thing.
Okay. That's it. It's Leroy and Stitch.
That's Leroy and Stitch.
All right. Okay. So, the thing about a lot of the ones I picked this week or I watched this week is they have twists. And the cloning is a part of the twist to a degree. So I kind of have to spoil these movies. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the next one I have to pick.
Hey, don't apologize to me. Apologize to the audience like a proper apology.
I'm sorry. So yeah, my next one is a movie called Moon, directed by the director of the World of Warcraft movie. Duncan Jones, and starring Sam Rockwell, and voiceover of Kevin Spacey as the robot, and it's about it takes place in the future where the humans have discovered some version of helium or something that can be mined off of the moon, that basically gives them unlimited energy. And it requires one guy to operate like a machine, basically a machine that does all the work, and then he ships it back to Earth. And Sam Rockwell plays this miner who is at the end of a 3-year ticket and is about to go home and be replaced. When something goes wrong, and he discovers that he is in fact a clone who is constantly at the end of his 3-year ticket. And so what happens is he gets woken up, he runs this 3-year ticket, and then the clone dies. And it is a constant, endless cycle of him running like this base. And something goes wrong, and 2 of the clones end up awake at the same time. And they, over shenanigans, wind up basically getting off of this base. I won't really give away too much. More than that.
That sounds like Mickey 17.
It
where there's 2 versions of the same clone and shenanigans ensue.
Kind of, but this is a more introspective, less wacky. And it's really good. It's a really good movie. Sam Rockwell does an unbelievable job interacting with himself. He's like really the only actor who's really in it. I don't think we really see anyone else. The performance is really good. The mystery is really good. I've kind of done a real I've kind of bullied my way through it just to prevent. There's a couple more twists in there involving the clones getting sick that are really quite good. It's worth checking out. I think it's on Crave in Canada. I think I watched it on Crave. But yeah, I maintain Sam Rockwell is good in everything. He's never bad in anything. Even if he's in something bad, he's never bad in anything.
It's a bold statement.
It is. It is a bold statement. I think that's it. That's it. So the cloning is very much the point of this story. Is the movie's about how. The movie is really I guess if I had to describe it, it's very similar to like a Black Mirror episode, a really good Black Mirror episode where like he's just kind of a cog in the machine. Like at the end of the movie, the one clone escapes and the computer is literally just like he's like, oh, I can just wipe the memory of all of me helping you out, and when the new version of you gets booted up, we'll just go about it like anything's normal, because his whole bit is he's been programmed to help Sam Rockwell's character no matter what. And so the cloning is just kind of, in this case, is just kind of routine. Like he doesn't really seem to. There's a common thread throughout these cloning movies of clones not really seeming to have any rights. And what's interesting is there's a point in the movie where and then obviously the question with clones is always, where does it originate? Who's the original? And they don't really explore it because there's a epilogue to this in a later movie made by the same director, where you see in the background the clone gets back to Earth and essentially sues this company for mistreatment. But from what I could tell, because I didn't watch it, I just read about it, it not really seems to be explained about like how complicit the original is in this.
Like the original person.
Yeah, like did he sign off on this? Is because what does he care? He gives them a bit of DNA. They just constantly just boot up new versions of him, or they Xeroxed him 100 times or whatever, put them all in stasis, and then wake him up and feed them new memories. Like, did he sign off on that? Like, and how?
Either way, it seems morally suspect.
Right. And then the question will come up again, and I'm going to try my best to pull the religiousness out of this, but the question kind of becomes
human soul creation.
What do you consider to be human, right? Like, but yeah, so like, because there's a point where he thinks that he's still married to this girl, and his like kid is still like a kid, like a little baby. But the kid is actually like 15 years old, and the original version is like alive and on Earth and doesn't do this. And so that's where I'm like, does he know that he's endlessly dying over and over again up on the spaceship? Like, how much does he know? The movie never really addresses that, and like you don't. They're not questions like I need answered, but if you're gonna do a follow-up to this, those are the questions I would maybe consider answering anyway.
When did this come out?
2010, 2011, I think.
Okay, so they could still do a sequel.
Let's find out. Oh, hold on. Sorry, 2009.
Okay.
They could, theoretically.
Interesting.
They could. But it's good. Good movie. Really good. That's Moon.
So, the next one is not a clone movie.
This is not a clone movie.
It is a multiverse story, technically. But it fulfilled your requirement because both sets of characters are played by the same actors. So, suck on that, science!
Suck on that, technicalities!
Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans.
That movie looks fun. Okay. Here's what I will say about Teen Titans Go. Is it sort of slightly depressing that Teen Titans Go is the longest running DC animated show of all time? Yeah. It kind of it's a real major bummer, man. But also, like, I cannot ignore that it is occasionally funny.
It has real Zoomer energy.
It has total. In all the worst ways, it reminds me of like Adventure Time or Regular Show, where I'm like, it just has a particular sense of humor that I will admit is occasionally funny, but also can just be a bit much.
It's like it definitely. Okay, so this movie very much the way that the Teen Titans, the original Teen Titans, interact with the Teen Titans Go characters, it very much feels like your millennial person interacting with a Zoomer.
It really does. I've seen clips from this movie, and it really does.
Where it's like we're like, oh, like they're not so bad. Okay, whoa, calm down, like chill, chill. You're putting out too much energy levels there.
Right.
You're very excited, or like the point where they're like, okay, like, team, we gotta go, and they jump out the window, and the original Teen Titan people are like, so where are we going? Like, what's the plan? He's like, we just gotta go. We this is how we do things. We just launch into action, and it's like, yeah, you're definitely like there's something to be said about Teen Titans Go is for a very different generation.
Look, I appreciate it for what it is. I don't like it. I really do believe it is a bastardization. It's not even that it's a bastardization of those characters generally, because it's not. It's just another adaptation. It's that it's a bastardization of the version of it that I like, done by the by the people who made that show. Like, I think that's why it hurts me so much worse. It's because it's like, these are the people who made that show.
It's especially bad because I think it's an episode of the actual show for Teen Titans Go, but I've seen clips where there's this one where there's a villain who, like, he erases past universes or whatever, and he shows up and he's like, this is what you used to be like, and they're like, oh my god, we were so cool, and it's like that. When you yourselves are saying that the previous show is a better version of the show that you're currently doing, then that's
but
not
Zoomers find that humor funny, but I'm like, lamp shading the fact that you otherwise ruin a good version of this show, like, it's not funny. I don't find that. But maybe that's just maybe. Hey, look. Okay, I'll be fair. That could very much be old man. Hey, you kids, get off my lawn energy. Like, I'm willing to acknowledge that.
Not even, hey, you kids, get off my lawn territory. I think I'm in full, hey, you kids, stop playing with my action figures.
Yeah, put down those action figures. They're not for you.
They're meant to be on the shelf and looked at, not played with.
Right? Yeah, they're meant to be looked at. Yeah. I'm starting to feel like Will Ferrell in the Lego Movie. Like I saw a meme that was like, that movie's like, oh, Will Ferrell, bad dad, won't let his kids play with his Lego, and I'm just like, oh my god, those kids ruined hours of work, years and days and hours of work.
I'm just like, I mean, he probably
That's horrifying.
He probably bought them their own sets that they could play with. This is for me,
right? This is for me,
this is for Daddy,
right? This is for Dad. This is not for you. But I used to have a far stronger disdainment for that show. I think I'd hate it less if it wasn't the original voice actors from Teen Titans. I mean, to be fair, Greg Sipes did turn out to be kind of a weirdo, but it's just especially Robin. Robin gets bastardized so bad on that show. Like, this movie just highlights how badly, where the Robin from the original show is like, yeah, you suck.
Yeah, I think Starfire is also bad because she talks like the this where she has to this to that, and it's so much. It was a thing that she did, but and this is the thing with all of the characters. They took a trait that the characters had in the 2013 version and dial it up to like 13.
Yeah.
And it's just
But like I also respect Teen Titans Go for doing weird shit like they did when they were promoting Space Jam. There's a movie where it's literally just Space Jam, and I don't know what they're called. That movie says what they're called, but
isn't it called Teen Titans Go to the Movie, and that's where they're just watching the
movie?
It's
literally just them and the Monstars, but not the Monstars, but them before they become the Monstars. When they're the little aliens, it's them watching Space Jam.
The Moron Mountain alien.
Yeah, I think in that movie they say what they're actually called. I can't remember what they're actually called. But yeah, it's literally just them watching Space Jam. And, like, it's on something. Like, I could have watched it one day and I chose not to because I'm like, no, I'm good. But yeah, that's my one thing about that movie is it just really highlights all the reasons why Teen Titans Go sucks. Nothing makes you realize how much that show sucks worse than that show. But then you have to like pull back.
It's the third Teen Titans Go film. It's Teen Titans Go see Space Jam, where they cross over with Space Jam as a way to promote Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Yeah. It's just literally them watching Space Jam with the little aliens from Space Jam. Like my thing with Teen Titans Go is like I hate it, but I every time I find myself hating it, I gotta pull back and be like, this is a show for 4-year-olds. Like it's not for me. But it's just I guess because I grew up with that 2003 show where I'm like that show is for kids and it definitely had kid energy, but it wasn't stupid like this. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just not for me.
That's why I say it's definitely just a different generation.
I appreciate what it's doing now, but I still hate it.
Teen Titans Go was very much created for the Zoomers, and they're called Zoomers for a reason.
Oh man, it's like dialed up to 11.
And the 2013 Teen Titans was for millennials, and the energy from the two shows reflects that.
Anyway, is that it, Jordan?
Yeah, that's Teen Titans Go versus Teen Titans.
Jordan, this week I managed to get in some of the first season of a show, which I don't know. I'm considering finishing it. It's a show I quite like. It's a show about clones. It's a Canadian show, for those of you who don't know. It's a show called Orphan Black. And this show is the reason why I think I was probably more fair to She-Hulk than maybe I should have been, because I really like Tatiana Maslany. I'm almost entirely sure I mispronounced her name.
I mean, here's what I'll say about that. You're probably the only person who does.
I really like her on this show. The show, basically, for those of you who don't know what Orphan Black is, it's about Sarah is a British a foster child con artist who mysteriously sees a woman who looks just like her step in front of a train and herself. And it turns out that there's a big conspiracy where it turns out that she's a clone. And she plays one of many, many clones over the course of the series. One is Allison, a suburban mom. One is Cosima, a grad student hippie chick. One is Sarah, who is a British mom with a young girl. And over the course of the show, she plays many more. She also plays like a crazy Russian assassin chick. And she's like really good on this show. All of these characters are completely different. They all have different like affects. And a lot of times she's playing them in the same scene together. Have you seen this show? I feel like I recommended the show to you and you watched like some of the first season, I think.
I recognize the name, but I'm having a hard time remembering if I've watched it or not.
I think you watched I made you watch a few episodes. I feel like I did. Because I think it was one of those, like, I had to be like, you guys kind of stick with it a bit. Because it is quite good. And like I say, her performance is really good. I will say, though, and I'm going to give away a big twist at later seasons of the show, because the big mystery of this show is who's the original, and you're constantly waiting for them to be, and then eventually later on in the show you discover that there's a male line of clones, so they all look like one particular guy, and there's all the female clones who all look like Tatiana Maslany, and you're just sort of expecting at a certain point, oh, they'll find the original. Like, that's kind of the part of the mystery of the show, is who's the original, who's the original, who's the original. Also, oh yeah, I should say, also a bunch of the side characters are really fun. Her brother, Felix, her brother, is just really fun. Flamboyantly gay British boy, he's really fun. Her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend, whose name is escaping me, he is, you remember in Homecoming, the guy who's the Scorpion?
Yes.
Played by that actor.
It wasn't he also in Better Call Saul?
Yes! Oh my god, he's Nacho in Better Call Saul. Yes, totally. Yes. He's in it, and he's really good. I had no idea he was Canadian. He's really good. He's really fun.
I didn't know he was Canadian.
Yeah, the show, a good portion of it is filmed in, I think it's both Vancouver and Toronto, but there's a lot of it's in Vancouver, which is always fun. That's think fun. It takes place in Toronto, but don't quote me on that. But anyway, so yeah, the big question of the show is who's the original, right? And so for most of the show, you're kind of just waiting for an original Tatiana Maslany to show up because they all look like her, right? And then you find out in the later seasons that no, and in a weird, like, they clearly came up with this later on because the early seasons don't seem to set this up like at all, but both Sarah, the main character, and Felix, the foster brother, are foster children of this woman. And it turns out that it's all an elaborate conspiracy by this. There's this whole thing of, like, this scientist group versus these, like, Christian fundamentalists who want to kill all the clones. It turns out that the original is just a random woman who is the mother of the foster mother of one of the clones, of Sarah, the main girl. And she has the genetic map for both the male and the female clones, and there is really no reason why they all look the same. Like, they're not like the clones. Like, they're like, oh, they're basically, they just replicated a embryo and injected it into this woman. And then they replicated this embryo and injected it into all of these different women. So all of these women were like born from different mothers, but they all look the same. So they're not
they're not clones
per se, but they all have identical genetic material. So it's like they're technically clones, but they're not clones in like they came out of a machine, traditional science fiction way. So I guess they're clones in a more like real way, but it's kind of a boring, unless like I've reread it twice. I remember seeing this on the show. Like, I got that far into it, and I remember being disappointed because I think haven't seen the last season because I've never seen the ending of the show. But I just remember like thinking like that's a boring reveal for this. Like
I wouldn't call those clones.
No,
I don't know what I would call them, but I wouldn't call them.
They are technically clones. They're genetic clones. They are identical.
But they're born from different women.
Well, at least to be 100% fair, I didn't rewatch all of it for this. That I'm going off by memory, but I'm pretty sure they all have different mothers. That's the idea.
Then they're not clones because the mother.
They just all have.
If it's basically like the dad's, we're gonna get into the specifics of it here. If it's like the dad's same cellular thing is being put like impregnated into these different women, then the women are still contributing half of the DNA. And if it's all different mothers, then they're not clones.
Yeah, I think it's just I think they inject. To be fair, I don't remember how. All I know is as it's described, all of the genetic material comes from like the one woman, and so it's just something to do with that. Her genetics are special that she can do that, and then like they are all. To be fair, they being born at different. They're definitely. I'm pretty sure they're definitely born at different mothers. But I could be wrong about that. But they are definitely all genetically identical. That's the idea. So they are technically. They're technically clones. They look identical and they are genetically identical. So for the purposes of what is considered a clone in a fictional sense, they are technically clones. But I do get your beef. I have that. I thought that reveal was boring. Like, I was like waiting for like, oh, because the whole thing is like this biogenetics company, this biogenetics company is like that has created these clones and has done this conspiracy. I was expecting like the original to be like a CEO of that company or something. Like you're expecting like an original, but yeah, no. As far as the show is concerned, there's no rhyme from what I remember anyway. I could be entirely misremembering. Maybe we will do a follow-up episode where I finish the show. But from what I remember, there's no real reason given for why they all look the same. Same thing with the guys. There's no real reason given for why they look the same. They just do. But it's a good show. I've complained about the mechanics of the cloning, but the show itself is good. The drama is good. It's one of those shows where like an episode will end on a real hard cliffhanger, and you'll be like, well, I gotta watch at least one more.
Eastland Burkholder says, but there was a label on the DNA.
Was there? To be fair, I'm doing this kind of completely off of memory. I only really got to watch like the first 5 episodes of season 10. Another real good selling point for this show. It's a nice, easy show to get through because I think there's like 4 seasons and each season's like 10 episodes long, and they're 40 minutes apiece. So I really could have, if I put more effort into it, finished it. Yeah, I don't remember. I know that they explain it, and I just remember that the revelation of it was really boring. To me, anyway. I just recall it being like, oh, it's like the original is just some woman. Like, yeah, you're kind of expecting there to be a reason.
Eastland Burkholder says, so the DNA was manipulated, but not manipulated for a good reason.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I can't remember. Again, I spent so long. There's a reasoning for... It's an evil... Anyway, that's Orphan Black. It's a good show. You would like it. This isn't me recommending it to you. If you haven't finished it, you would like it.
Okay.
It's right in your wheelhouse. Also, it's an R-rated show, so there'd be some nudity. If that sweetens the deal at all. It's a bit of nudity.
So my last rapid fire is another Disney movie, the Proud Family movie. Which apparently was originally anyway. Sorry, Eastland Burkholder says, but there wasn't ASCII like keyboard code in the DNA, not in like I typed.
Yeah. There was that I do remember. Yeah, there's code that basically it's like a barcode that identifies them as being created in the lab, the evil biogeneticist company. Because eventually they introduce male clones, and that's how you differentiate them. Anyway,
the Proud Family movie, which is
another one of those not really about cloning, just kind of has clones in it.
It is kind of about cloning in this instance.
Oh yeah, isn't it part like Revenge of the Body Snatchers, Pod People kind of vibe?
Yeah, kind of. So we'll get there. But it serves as the finale to the show's original run. But then the film is then non-canon because of Proud Family Louder and Prouder, where it retcons the film as a dream in the episode Us Again.
Oh, does it? Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that. That's funny. So the movie was supposed to be that was supposed to be the series finale?
It was supposed to be the series finale.
Oh, that's funny. I didn't know that.
Then they came out with the sequel series and made it
wild series. We talked about this earlier today, but like those Disney Channel movies, or as I call them, the movie, because to be fair, they weren't always Disney Channel movies. They're always funny because they always wildly like escalate the tension of those shows and like misrepresents those shows in kind of like a major way. It's like, yeah, kind of makes the Proud Family look like a way more action-oriented show than it is. The only one that I would say is maybe accurate to what the vibe of the show is probably the Kim Possible movies.
I was gonna say that one's pretty.
That's a just more high-octane version of what the show is.
But this one, so yeah, basically, it is a Revenge of the Body Snatcher type thing because you find there's the I don't remember what the character's name is, but he had been working on making these genetically engineered.
Oh, you
like,
said it's
peanut.
cashew.
No, that's one of the good guys.
Oh,
But I'm talking the bad guy.
it was a peanut pun. That's all I remember you saying.
It was a peanut pun of some sort. Hold on. Let's see if I can find it.
It was.
That's what it is. Dr. Carver.
Oh, that's
Like
funny.
like the peanut butter.
Like the guy who invented peanut butter.
And so yeah, he's trying to make genetically modified nut people who are super strong and can help to
Now,
take
Jordan,
over the world.
is that nut people or people who are nuts?
Yes.
You know what you know what I did there.
Yes.
You know what I did there.
And you end up finding out that he himself is a cloned nut person of the doctor person that he originally was, who is in fact a good guy. But yeah, at a certain point in the movie, the Proud Family gets cloned and replaced by nut people. And it's wacky shenanigans. It's a romp.
It's a whole yeah. It's funny with the
It's
Proud Family.
it's a romp.
That's like in the because we were 2000s Disney people, so we're like That's So Raven and like The First Sweet Life, like that's our era of like Disney Channel shows. So
Yeah,
like
this came out August 19th, 2005, so this was right in our wheelhouse.
right there, and I never liked Proud Family. I don't know. I always made me feel like I was like, is it me? Am I the problem?
Proud Family for me was always one of those cartoons where it was like I didn't dislike it, and if there was nothing else that I wanted to watch, I would put it on, and I would find it enjoyable enough. But it was never one where it was like if there was 10 programs on, and Proud Family was one of the choices, and there was like 4 other choices of things I also liked. Proud Family was always like at the bottom of the list.
I was just like, my thing with this, like, just a lot of the friend, like, I couldn't stand La Cienega. I think I got the name right.
Yeah, La Cienega.
She was like, I just recall there's like just like a lot of episodes where she does, in my opinion, friendship ending shit that's like, this is too much to pull back from that and continue to be believable.
The thing for me with the Proud Family is the thing that always made it. I didn't like the friend characters. The stuff that made it fun and the stuff that I enjoyed, still enjoy to this day, was the dynamic between Penny and the dad.
Yeah.
That's the stuff that was fun. The dad was like the over-the-top character who was crazy and cartoonish and fun.
I went through a period.
And that's what was enjoyable for me.
I went through a period where I'm just going to be straight honest, where I'm like, am I racist? Is it because I'm racist? But then I have to remind myself, like, no, it's not, because one of my all-time favorite shows is That's So Raven. I love That's So Raven. And in terms of animated shows, one of my all-time favorite animated shows involving a person of color is Fillmore. Like, I love Fillmore. One of my favorite lines from Fillmore is still I think it's a meme at this point, but it's and that chicken is dry, real dry. It's so funny. Yeah, that show's really funny and really good. I just don't like the characters on this show.
As I was watching this movie,
movie's funny though.
It's a thing. Yes, the movie. I like the movie.
I like the movie. I recall liking the movie. I think I watched it with the intent of wanting to hate it, but I really quite liked it.
It's a feeling that I always feel when I watch The Proud Family. Is there's so many stereotypes where I find myself questioning whether and maybe people who are more able to answer this question can comment in the comments, but there's a lot of stuff in the Proud Family generally where I'm the wrong person to comment on this, so I won't. But I found myself wondering, is this offensive?
Yeah, I mean, right down to the fact that they've got a token white character, and I'm like, this just feels stereotypical. But like, to my knowledge, and I don't know enough or care enough about the Proud Family to bother to know this. And just being honest, I believe it's made by people of color. I know that the new one got accused of being woke or whatever. So like, maybe it's not.
Apparently, reception to the film was mixed.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. It was a Disney Channel original movie based on a show that I think did all right. Like I don't think it was like, again, to be fair, I could be completely wrong about that, but I think it did okay. Anyway, Jordan, that's the Proud Family. Do you have anything else
Yeah,
left to say about the Proud Family movie?
No, not really.
It was all right. So my
It was
final
fine.
one. Jordan, have you seen? Okay, my final one is a little movie called The Island. Jordan, have you seen The Island?
I've seen movies about islands.
All right, I'll describe it to you, and you tell me if you've seen it. So, The Island is a movie made by Michael Bay, starring Ian McGregor and Scarlett Johansson, and they exist in a dystopian future where they have to live in a facility where they have to do various tasks throughout the day, and they all have the opportunity to win a lottery to travel to an island, which is the one safe zone in an otherwise contaminated Earth, where they will get to live out their days in paradise for free. And you're in big twist because I don't know if this is known as a part of the movie. But it's treated as though it's a twist in the movie, but I don't know if it's a known part of the plot. Anyway, turns out that this facility is in fact a cloning facility, and that all of
Eastland Burkholder says the island has no island.
The island the island is not real. Yes, it turns out, big twist, that the island is not real, and all of the people who exist in this facility, which it doesn't make a ton of sense because the gentleman who played, you remember Arwen on Sweet Life?
Oh yeah.
He's in this, and he plays like a guy in this facility who has been at this facility for a long time, and he's bitter that he's never been chosen to go to the island. And Ian McGregor's character has been there for 3 years. And they have not yet been called to the island. So it makes you go, well, why does this guy, if this is indeed, because the big twist is that all of the people in this facility are all clones or surrogates that people have bought to have children that are there to basically just be organ farms. So
that feels unethical.
In the case of Ian McGregor, his host he has a liver disease, and so yeah, Ian McGregor's clone is literally being grown to harvest this liver for him, and yeah, he's developing sort of consciousness and self-awareness, and is starting to question his environment. And these clones have been like specifically engineered to basically be docile, and the public.
Eastland Burkholder sounds correct. Eastland Burkholder says grown for spare parts or as replacement bodies.
Pretty much, and the public perception of these clones is that because that was my big thing early on. I'm like, this feels really not even just that this feels highly unethical, which obviously, but it feels entirely wasteful. Like, wait, you're gonna grow an entire person, like, because Ian McGregor's character, he's very self-aware. He asks questions, like they have therapy sessions, all this sort of stuff. You're gonna grow these people just to, like, it kind of seems like the cloning equivalent to shark finning, basically, where it's like you're gonna grow all this flesh and all this body part and spend all this money to grow a liver and then toss the rest. Feels like a waste. Feels like a waste of meat.
I mean, my thing is so you're growing it to be replacement parts / bodies. Why? I don't know how to phrase this. Why activate it?
Right,
why
exactly.
Why have it be walking around and being a person? Why not just leave it in the tank?
Right. Well, so that they do eventually. That was a question I initially had, and they do eventually answer it by being basically like, when they did that, the human public understands that these things are just that, sacks of meat, and that was the only way that they could get this past Congress legally, because otherwise it's highly unethical. But the doctor, played by Sean Bean, reveals that, who doesn't die in this movie, reveals that when they were that, they weren't viable. The organs weren't viable. They didn't work. For reasons that, from what I understand, are unexplained. at least I'm pretty sure they're unexplained. They're not viable. They don't, when the consciousness isn't there, they're not viable. Which like doesn't.
Eastland Burkholder says they failed to sell it as a financial feasible business. In world, there should be an explanation. Grown as blobs, the product fails. It is explained.
Yeah. The product fails because but it's not really. He says conscious, like it's not really like it's not clarified because it's not made clear as to whether or not it's just like the electricity from the brain, because then you just do a thing where you create a husk or it has like a brain that just has bioelectricity but is effectively a vegetable but produces brain waves. You could like, if you can create a whole ass person, you could do that much. So is it like the literal consciousness? Again, movie's not really clear. And so then eventually Scarlett Johansson, you find out, this is a cloning facility. There's a really harrowing scene where you see Michael Clark Duncan just get like pulled back into an operating room where he's going to be harvested for organs for this athlete. And eventually Ian McGregor shows up, or he escapes, and they go to find the person, they refer to him as his sponsor. They go to find his sponsor, who is just this right bastard of a billionaire, Scottish, so Ian McGregor gets to use his natural accent, hedonist who slept with a bunch of women and now has cirrhosis of the liver from partying too much. He
a real piece of shit.
Just basically. A real piece of shit. And they attempt to appeal to his humanity to get them to help him.
Eastland Burkholder says, when they grow meat on Petri dish, they have to have electrical stimulation.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, just have it attached to a brain that's like pumping out electricity. You like I'm saying within the logic of this movie, you could do that if it's really about brain. Like I understand, it needs to be connected to a brain, but you could create a brain that
you could have a brain which does all the physical things that it needs to do without having any of the
exactly. Yeah, like the effectiveness of like making a bug twitch using electricity. Like you could theoretically do that. Wow.
You can activate the synapses without having cognitive thought.
Exactly. Where was I? We're talking about. Oh, that derailed me. Shoot. What was my last bit? Where was I?
You were talking about Ian McGregor's actual accent.
Oh, right. He shows up and he's a right bastard. Yeah. And so he immediately calls the scientists, the cloning people, whatever, and basically like, why is he like sitting in my living room, basically, and attempts to get them there to.
She says, so the sponsor asks them indignantly, why is my insurance policy visiting me?
Yeah, why is he sitting in my lobby? Exactly, yeah. And so he attempts to betray him. And very long story, very short. There's a subplot involving a mercenary character played by someone. Oh, Digimon Hanzu, who's trying to basically recollect. He's hired by Scarlett Johansson's on behalf of Scarlett Johansson's sponsor, who's in a coma, who is the Scarlett Johansson clone. Is all her parts is going to her. So in pursuit of trying to retrieve her. He goes after him, and the clone manages to convince the mercenaries that he's the real one, and they kill the clone. And he takes over and assumes his life. And we're going to come back to this a little bit later because...
Sorry. Evan Burkholder wants to politely contradict you. We do not know what dreaming does, but when a person stops sleeping, they die.
Huh? What?
It's just that hormones and recalibration happens during sleep. Cells and organs repair.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, in terms of yeah. But I mean, in terms, you should talk in terms of brain functionality. In terms of attaching it to a consciousness. Yeah, but. Chemically, I just feel like chemically you could achieve what you need to biologically.
So how hard is it getting the hormones right to grow blobs? Question mark, question mark.
I don't know. It's a Michael Bay movie. I don't feel like he probably put that much thought into it. Anyway.
I've lost the plot.
Ian McGregor's right bastard. He betrays them, and he ends up getting shot, and he dies, and then the clone takes over his life, and then they end up having to go back and say they end up saving all the clones, because turns out that like from Ian McGregor on, now all the clones have the ability to just like access their prime host's memories, and they're developing independent thought. And so, that was gonna be my final point. There we go. This movie reminded me a lot of The Sixth Day, because it asks the question of like, I don't inherently think the notion like these movies all are like cloning bad across the board, but I don't think like the idea of and also they ask the inherent question of like, what is it to be human? Like the island very much by the end of it is like, these aren't humans, whereas the Sixth Day asks the question of like, is Arnold Schwarzenegger human? We're gonna come back to that. But the architect of the cloning, his attitude towards cloning is similar but different in these two movies, which I thought was interesting. Where in this one, in the Sixth Day, that guy is motivated by controlling death, whereas this one takes more of a eugenics bend of being able to like craft the perfect person, and they were so similar to each other. I thought that was really interesting. What else? The island. Yeah, I forgot where I was going with that, but it was another example of like, man, it turns out when a director isn't bastardizing a beloved thing I love, I quite enjoy his movies, because I thoroughly enjoyed this as a turn off your brain, and also there was some interesting stuff about cloning. Oh yeah, that's where I was going with it. Ultimately, I don't fundamentally see an issue of like cloning, like of using like indistinguishable genetically unidentifiable like a heart or like a liver or like you know what I mean, like being able to grow organs.
I think I was gonna say, I think there's a very big difference between being able to grow organs and growing an entire person with its own consciousness, thoughts, and feelings.
Also,
I think those are two very different things.
Also, Google was conflicting. I did Google is because as far as I understand, cloning is illegal. Human cloning is illegal, and cloning generally is illegal. After they cloned Dolly, I
believe it is illegal.
I believe it. But when I Googled it, it said it was fairly recently made illegal, which I thought was interesting. Like, it was like 2013 or something like that. I could be wrong. But also, I mean, one of the things on Google said that it wasn't illegal, so I cannot say for sure. And also, we live in Canada, so
2013 is like 12 years ago. So
yeah, but like
what you
historically, grand scheme of things, that's fairly recently.
Eastland.
Ooh, that'll tell me.
Eastland Burkholder says, Sixth Day, like that movie. Sixth Day villain just wants to cheat death. And then says, the film and the island promised it could grow blobs, but Thanos girl could not. We do not understand hormones enough to grow organs that will work right.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I'm just saying in terms of like the ethics of cloning, and also, we're gonna talk about the Sixth Day later on the show. But that movie poses the question of like, where
Dolly
is
could not live normal lifespan.
What is what is and also I believe it was sterile as well. As long as where is the ethical line? Like, as long as you have consent. Like, if I give you consent to clone me and I say you can clone me, is that okay? And like I won't even. I mean, like, we'll come back to the big guy in the sky question of it. But like, do we have a right to do this question of it comes up in this of like I don't think there's an inherent ethical issue with this. But it's hard to like examine that question properly when it's like, yeah, every one of these movies is like, this is not being made to seem like a bad thing, but like this one guy deciding who gets to be a clone or not be a clone, or who gets to like harvest like he wants to grow these people to just harvest organs from people and like Frankenstein perfect people from that. Like that's not okay. But having a goo that just has organs in it that you can cut out and give to people, that conceptually doesn't seem like a bad thing to me.
Burkholder says the question is, who is the legal person?
Yes, right. That's what we're gonna get into that as we go on, because that question does come up a few more times over this course of the show.
Here's my thing. Forget growing biological organs and stuff like that. I want robot parts. I want to have a robot hand which can do robot things.
Jordan, my answer to that, and then we will move on into the have scenes.
And I'm not talking like the current like prosthetic. I mean a full-on robot arm. I want to be Inspector Gadget.
I mean, I just want to make two of me to one so I can do this and he can go work at my day job.
Oh no, that doesn't work out. I've watched a movie which thoroughly explores that.
I mean, so have I. Several of my movies don't work out. Don't work out with that. They never work out. They always wind up sleeping with your wife.
So, Superman Doomsday.
That's it. That's the island.
That's rapid fire.
That's the beginning of our nuanced discussion about clone ethics. But you didn't know you were tuning into that this week. Yeah, Superman Doomsday.
This is my first have seen.
This is not
Superman Doomsday.
This is not a good adaptation of this comic book, but it's an alright movie.
It's an okay movie. Yeah,
I forgot that movie had clones in it until I was looking at movies for this week, and I was like, oh yeah, it is technically a clone, because they've actually done a few reasonably accurate adaptations of this movie in animated form now. So I'm like, oh yeah, they don't do the Force Superman bit. It's just a clone from the Fortress of Solitude.
Burkholder, what do you mean need legal questions solved first? You mean in regards to making clone legal? I mean, that's hype. There's a lot of things that would need to happen before cloning of any sort would ever be allowed.
You'd have to answer the question of personhood, basically. We're going to get into that question because that question comes up. It's going to come back. We'll talk about it more.
Where is your legal self?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you consider? What do you consider personhood legally? What identifies you as a person? What makes you human? If you're again, we're going to come back to this, but that's a question I will leave hanging for when we talk about the sixth day. It's what makes you human? If you believe in a soul, it's a soul, but like legally speaking, you can't prove that that's a thing. So what do you use to identify what makes you human legally speaking?
Yeah, we'll get there. Superman Doomsday.
It's another one that's not really about cloning. It just has a clone in it.
It has a clone in it. Superman dies, and
also
then,
is he a clone?
I
thought
he is.
Okay,
he is. There's a scene where Lois.
Am I bringing like an android robot person?
Let me finish, and you'll understand. There's a scene where Lois Lane goes to Lex and is all like, yeah, he's not Superman, and yada yada yada, and then stabs him in the neck and goes and investigates his place, and you see tanks full of Supermen that have been grown.
Oh, okay. Because in my brain he was like maybe I'm thinking of another Superman, but like he was like a Fortress of Solitude thing gone wrong.
No, this was a Lex Luthor tried to make a Superman thing and it goes wrong.
Gotcha.
But yeah, then regular Superman shows up. Sorry, I'll read that in a second. regular Superman shows up, and that's where we get to see him in the black suit. And apparently, I just found out. I don't think I knew this, but there's a Kevin Smith cameo
Really?
in this one. Yeah.
Huh.
Writer-director Kevin Smith made a brief cameo appearance in the film during the scene in which Superman apprehends Toyman. As Superman carries Toyman off, a man, modeled after and voiced by Smith, remarks, like, we really needed to see him bust up a mechanical spider, right? Lame. This is a reference to the Warner Bros. Superman project that he and film producer John Peters
That's so
collaborated on, which never came to fruition.
I've seen this movie too. That's funny. Yeah, the number one thing I remember about this movie in particular was it was the first time they did an animated movie that was like allowed to be PG-13. So the big selling point of this movie is it's a slightly rougher version of the animated series. So like I think there's a bit of blood in like the third act.
It's in this, even to the point where it's like in the same style and stuff, but it's not supposed to be a direct sequel to the original series.
But it's like I think it's Tim Daly, if I'm not mistaken, playing Superman, and it's one of those ones where like they get to say hell now, like they get to say like PG-13 curse words, but it's scandalous because it's an animated one. No, it's not Tim Daly.
Adam Baldwin.
Oh right, this is the one that was Adam Baldwin. Right. Forgot about that.
One of my favorite parts in it though is after Super Clone goes rogue and Lex goes into his little safe room where it has the red kryptonite lights and he's got the gloves on and he's like come on, like, who's your daddy? And Super Clone just closes the door and rips the safe room out and tosses it. And it's just just the deadpan pressing the button, closing the door shut, and Lex gets this look on his face like, huh. Very funny.
I didn't see that coming.
So we've had a few comments from Burkholder here. Where's your legal self before clone technology could be used? If your awareness can be shifted into a robot, a human-like android, a hard drive in a building, where is your legal self? Must be answered. Permission if donor DNA giver.
Yeah, exactly. You have to legally identify what is the self, exactly.
Is it the brain? Is it the body? Is it
either the consciousness?
The spirit? Is it the consciousness? Is it what is it? And then, when you make clones, you have to distinguish, are they people? Are they not people?
Yeah.
Do they have the same rights as normal humans? Because if not, that's a slippery slope to slavery.
It's a question that they can't answer about, like, real people, about... Okay, without getting... Like, the question of legally what is a person, no one has ever been able to, like, definitively answer that question. And that's a question you'd have to answer before you'd be able to legally deal with clones. Jordan, is that it? Is that it for Superman?
That is it for Superman.
So, my first half scene, we're going to put off the 6th day. We'll do that second. Because we're going to take a brief detour into some multiverse territory with my first half scene, which is Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, the multiple Oscar award-winning movie about the multiverse, with... Oh, I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation of his name. I immediately apologize. Don't cancel me. Ki Kwan Ki. He was in Loki. He was the guy from Loki. I'm positive you've seen this movie. But it stars Michelle Yeoh, who is a Chinese immigrant who owns a laundry mat. Whose life is kind of nothing of a life. She's being audited by the IRS. And her husband is about to serve her divorce papers as a means to talk about their marriage. And right as all this is all about to collide. Oh, and her daughter has slowly drifted away from her because she is in a relationship with a girl with whom the mom does not approve. All while her dad is going to come visit her, and he's traditional, like, conservative Chinese immigrant. And so then it turns out that, spoiler alert, no, it's not a spoiler alert, it's the plot of the movie. The multiverse is real, and her husband from a universe called the Alphaverse can utilize a technology that she from that universe has invented to body jack her husband in order to defeat an ultimate evil, multiversal evil, which I cannot pronounce and will not bother to try. And it's really quite good, and it's not really about like interacting with your alternate selves, although it does meet the criteria of there being multiple versions of the same person. The mechanic of this is that if you do seemingly like random actions, so like one of the random actions in this is like Jamie Lee Curtis plays the IRS auditor, and Michelle Yeoh has to tell her like genuinely and sincerely that she is like in love with her, and that allows her to access the abilities from the universe where she leaves her husband and becomes like a karate master and like a Hollywood like action star, and so she can fight her off using karate and whatnot. Because Michelle Yeoh is I think it's supposed to be a reference to the fact that Michelle Yeoh is a kung fu action star in Japan. She's basically like the female Jackie Chan, essentially.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, she's like famously told off Jackie Chan for being a big sexist. Like she's effectively the girl version of him in China. And so she ends up fighting her off. And so it's like, yeah, so you have to do, or at one point, one of the random actions is, for reasons that I won't explain, there's like a big dildo that the guy has to like jump on and shove up his ass in order to like get powers and stuff. And it's really wild. In one of the universes, there's a universe where they just have hot dogs for fingers.
Random.
It's really good. The action is really solid. Oh, that's the one. One of the very first things the Ki Kwan Ki does is he eats chapstick in order to gain like these really crazy kung fu abilities. Like, he has this really good extended choreographed sequence using a fanny pack that is very like, I mean, I don't know how, Jackie Chan's kind of like improvisational kind of fighting style that he does, yeah, it's very, very akin to that, where like he's using the fanny pack to like disarm guards and stuff. It's very, very fun. It's a real metaphor for letting reconnecting with your family. But no, I like when multiverse stuff, like where like there's parallel thought in terms of like ideas of like, hey, I've thought of this before. So the idea, the big thing with it is she can access all these powers because she's like the worst version of herself. Basically, she has like she can access the idea of the multiverse in this movie is that every time you make a decision, a new universe is created. It's like anytime you make a decision. So because she's picked up and dropped so many hobbies, there is just all these universes where she has all of these skills because she's failed at everything. And so at a point he's like, hey, you're like the worst version of yourself. You constantly give up on everything. And that gives you all this access. So I've always had this theory like in the multiverse that like there has to be like the worst version of you, who he's the one who had to make all the bad decisions, and so out in the multiverse there's all the awesome versions of you that get to live awesome lives because you made the bad decision. I'm like, I've had that theory, or the one where in the Multiverse of Madness where when you dream, you see other universes. I was like, oh, I had that theory like years ago, and it's just real neat to see, oh, I'm not the only one to have this idea of the multiverse, if you consider the multiverse to not be real and be fictional. Like, I just love that idea of like parallel thought. And it's just a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. It won an Oscar for a reason. It's really good. It's totally worth checking out if you haven't seen it. And it's, Ki Kwan Ki is an absolute delight. He's really good.
I don't think I have.
I could have sworn I'm positive you watched it for this show.
If I did, I don't remember doing so.
Fair enough. I don't have a strong enough memory one way or the other. Oh, I gotta get you to watch it then for this show. Because it's good. It's a good movie. Like I say, won a ton of Oscars for a reason. That's it. That's everything, everywhere, all at once. It rocks.
So,
That's a funny joke if you've seen the movie.
my second have seen is a movie which came out in 2013. It's a movie which involves clones.
Jordan, it all involves. It's clones. It's all clones.
Well, it wasn't all clones. Some of my stuff was not clones.
I know. My one thing wasn't clones.
You're the last one you just talked about wasn't clones.
But it's clones though. Ultimately.
Oblivion.
Yeah, that's another one where
the movie that I watched.
I mean that one does involve clones, but the fact that it involved clones is a big twist. It's supposed to be a big twist.
Big twist. But it's fun. It's got Morgan Freeman in it too.
Does it?
I like him. Yeah, it does. And I like a movie that has Morgan Freeman in it.
Yeah,
it makes the movie better.
But yeah, it's supposed to be it's a kind of a modern. Okay, this is a kind of a big kind of divergent, but I promise it relates. In the 1970s, there was a particular kind of they make fun of it on Family Guy, but there's a particular kind of dystopian science fiction kind of movie, like Logan Runs, where they all have like just like that random weird third act bad twist, where it's like. It's the corporation, and then they take off the this is that. I think an homage to that, where I think the clone thing. Yes, isn't it like a big third act twist?
Yeah. Well, so you end up finding out that basically there's Jack is a repair technician with Victoria. They're like some of the last people on Earth, and. Jack repairs combat drones and like they're hunting the scavengers and stuff, and they think that there is this big war between Eastland Burkholder says clones.
No, it's not. It's
multiverse.
It's doubles. That's the justification. It's more than one of the same person. Also, Rakakuni. I didn't bring up Rakakuni. It's Ratatouille, but it's a raccoon instead of a rat.
But basically, Jack and his partner are trying. They think that they're getting water to take to the Titan colonists, who are the survivors of the war between aliens and humans and stuff. And then you find out that. Yeah, Jack's actually a clone, and he's working for the aliens, and the humans are like the scavengers that they've been hunting down and killing are the last of humanity, and they're the only humans that exist, and there is no colony on Titan. And yeah, they're like at a certain point in human history, the aliens showed up, and like an army of Jacks and the girl are just spread across the planet, slowly taking out humans.
Wow. Big twist. That's a big twist.
Yeah.
So is it a movie?
Yeah,
okay, is it a movie about clones, or is it a movie featuring a clone?
I would say it's a movie featuring clones.
It's not really about clones.
Not really necessarily. It's more about defeating the alien things. Yes, Jack and his partner are just clones.
Yes, they are.
But it's not really about the fact that they're clones. It's about the fact that the alien things need to be taken down and the survival of humanity and stuff.
And remind me, do we get a multiple Tom Cruise team up by the end?
Well, we have a scene where Tom Cruise fights himself.
That's not the same.
But
I want Tom Cruise to give Tom Cruise a big high five as they do a Tom Cruise smile at each other.
No, not really.
Lame.
But there's a point in the movie where Tom Cruise appears to die, and then we jump in. It's 3 years later, and it's Julia and her and Jack's daughter, and they're living in the cabin. And then survivors arrive, and there's now another clone of Jack who has recovered the original Jack's memories. And so it begs the question of, did Jack die, or
no, Tom Cruise team up?
Did Jack die, or can he die when there's so many clones of him?
I don't know. What is consciousness? What is humanity? That's the question.
What is the ethics of it all?
What is the ethics of it all? Zoran, is that it? Is that it?
I'm just looking through the wiki to see if there's anything else I want to mention.
Do the
Does it tell me?
big stretch.
It had a budget of 120 million.
I recall it doing okay.
And it had a box office of 287.9 million.
Yeah, I recall it doing okay. Not like great, but okay. But to be fair, Tom Cruise movies, especially around that point, just kind of did well.
Yeah, he's a fairly. He has. Yeah.
He's got
He's got that face power.
He does. He has that Tom Cruise power.
Burkholder says, "Nope," and I am not him. The Tom clone says, and then she said, Eastland Burkholder. I don't know if that's a male or female. Anyway, it says Battlestar Galactica clones.
I've never seen Battlestar Galactica.
Me neither. So that means nothing to me.
I feel like I knew that there were clones on that ship, but I've never actually seen it. Jordan, is that it? Is that Oblivion?
That is Oblivion, and that is my last have seen.
Let's talk about some cloning on the 6th day. The whole reason why we're doing this episode, because I like this movie. The 6th Day, for those of you who have never seen The 6th Day, it's a 2000s movie starring Mr. The Governator himself, the Terminator, Mr. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He plays
Okay. Would not have guessed that.
Huh.
Eastland Burkholder, female, 62 years old.
Well, welcome to the show.
Welcome to the show.
6th Day, 2000. 2000? I'm pretty sure it's 2000. Arnold Schwarzenegger. He plays a charter pilot in the future, where they're basically cloning. Technology was invested in cloning, and as a result, it got to a point where they had attempted to clone a human. The beginning of the movie spends a great deal of time going into the background of the world, so you have to bear with me while I do it. And so they attempted to clone a human, and the human was not viable. And as I recall, it hurt itself, or it had to be put down essentially. And so as a result, they passed what they call the 6th Day Law in reference to on the 6th day God created man. And the whole idea being that you can't clone humans because humans have a soul. And if you clone humans, they're not humans because they don't have a soul. This movie is just, okay, up front, is weirdly religious. Like it has a really Christian bent of like what makes a human is that a human has a soul. That's what makes it a human. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's entire bit is like, so yeah, anyway, they passed these 6 day laws that makes human cloning illegal. But the pet cloning is still legal. So this company called Repet now exists to clone pets.
Reclone.
Reclone? Reclone.
Eastland Burkholder, sleazy best friend, first clone pets, reclone.
Yeah.
Memory transfer process was so flawed.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, they were unable to. Yeah, so yeah, they now create clones, and they basically, the CEO of the company that does this as at a loss to basically seed the idea that cloning is okay, that they can perfectly replicate your pet. Your pet is exactly the same way it was when it died. It has all the same memories. Is exactly the same. And Arnold Schwarzenegger objects to this. First of all, I should start. I didn't ask you. No, we already discussed. You watched this movie. You don't remember it.
Yeah.
My hope is that the memory will come back as I describe it. You'll let me know if that happens. And so, yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger's objection to this is like, what if the clone is dangerous? What if the pet is dangerous? What about its soul? It doesn't have a soul. Like, it's not the same. And they like the repet whatever guy assures him that it's fine. And yeah, he has a best friend character, played by Michael Rappaport, I believe, who is basically also trying to convince him of the same, like being like, it's fine. I had a repet. They were totally fine. And they are transporting the CEO of the company, which basically funds this clinic, which clones organs. Like, that's its thing. It clones organs. It does organ replacements using cloned organ bits or whatever. Yeah. And it's understood that it doesn't clone humans. Well, spoiler alert, big conspiracy, they are actually cloning humans. That's the plot of the movie. And so, Arnold Schwarzenegger is contracted to charter fly, because he's a charter pilot, because a big part of this, a big set piece and centerpiece of this movie are these two not very good CGI helicopters, like, that the movie is very proud of, because there's multiple scenes of them flying that, like, they're future looking helicopters that don't, like, they're these weird helicopter plane hybrids that don't look great when they fly. They're kind of cool looking when they don't fly, because they look like they were practically built, but they when they fly, they don't look great because it's 2000s, early 2000s CGI. But he gets contracted to fly this big evil CEO guy, and he swaps places with the best friend. So the best friend takes his place and tells the CEO that, oh, I'm Arnold Schwarzenegger. And Arnold Schwarzenegger leaves because it's his birthday. He's going to show up for the surprise party. He leaves to go check out the repet for the daughter because the dog has died. He has this objection to getting the dog repetted. And so he swapped places with them. The guy takes over for him, flies to the CEO. And the CEO, it looks like the CEO has been attacked by somebody. And then all of a sudden, Arnold Schwarzenegger wakes up in a cab with no real memory of having gotten there. And he goes home, and he talks to the repet guy, who kind of seems to know him already, it's kind of weird. And he ultimately decides not to do it. And the daughter had earlier asked him for, like, this really creepy, like, it's really creepy. Like, I'm going to put a clip of it when I do the eventual YouTube video on this creepy, weird looking doll. Instead of doing the repet, takes it home. And when he goes to walk in, surprise, there's another Arnold Schwarzenegger there. And he's like, what? Why is there two of me? And it's funny because it's one of those movies where it's like a bunch of actors you know before they were famous. So, like, it's, I can never remember his stupid name. Yondu from Guardians of the Galaxy. Michael Rooker. Oh. Michael Rooker is there as the head of security. He's got hair before he went bald. It's Terry Crews. Terry Crews is there. It's his first movie. He's there. And they're basically a bunch of, like, security thugs for the bad guy. And they're there to basically retrieve Arnold Schwarzenegger because Arnold Schwarzenegger swapped places with his friend. They thought that he got killed along with the CEO, so they cloned him by accident. So now there's two Arnold Schwarzeneggers running around, effectively proving that human cloning is happening and threatening to undo this massive conspiracy. So these guys need to get Arnold Schwarzenegger. That's the sort of the plot of the movie. Need to get Arnold Schwarzenegger. Oh my God, where was I going with that?
And then stuff happens.
Shit. Oh my God, brain fart.
Arnold owns company, skips out on flying.
Oh, that's it. The security people. So the security people start chasing after him. There we go. Now we're there. And that was all the lead up to say that Arnold Schwarzenegger gleefully kills these people. Like, there's a point where they start chasing after him, and, like, the one guy's chasing after him on, like, I think he's, like, on a motorcycle or something, and Arnold hits the brake, so he hits the brake and he goes sailing, and then Arnold, like, runs over him with his car and then, like, gleefully smiles. And I'm like, for a guy whose job it is to fly helicopters, he just took a hard pivot to so far as he knows, just be cool with indiscriminately killing people now. Like, that's a hard turn for a character. And so then later on in the movie, they reveal that it's because he used to be a soldier. purely so they don't have to explain, because it's Arnold, right? It's what he does. He kills people in movies, so they don't need to explain why he's just, oh, he was a soldier in a war. Oh, that's why he's a merciless killer. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you've got the chat open. Burkholder there's a few comments there. I've been keeping an eye on them, but
yeah, it's in an eco. There's an eco. Yeah, there's a subplot with an eco-terrorist group who they're protesting the cloning, and they kill.
Has an 80s cop feel rather than realistic.
Yeah. They need him to be a soldier in a war, so he's cool. He's cool with killing people because it's kind of trying to be like True Lies kind of style action movie. And yeah, so then and trying to basically get his life back and get back. So there's from this point on, there's this really funny subplot with these guys where they keep getting killed and getting brought back as newer and newer clones. And the one guy, he keeps getting these like phantom pains where like at one point his neck gets broken and he's like, oh, I feel like my neck is sore. They're like, no, your neck is not sore. It's a new neck. That's literally impossible. And it's kind of a funny bit. But yeah, I will say there is kind of a clever twist later on. You follow a particular Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you think that the one that went back to the house first is the clone. You're like, oh, because the security people are like, oh, you're only being killed because he went home first. It doesn't matter which one of you lives, just as long as one of you lives. And so you think that the Arnold you're following the whole movie is the original. And you find out at the end that no, in fact, he is the clone. And the whole thing of this movie is they're like, because cloning is illegal, if they find... Oh, and the other big twist is that the CEO died 3 years ago, and he, as he exists now, is a clone. And as a clone,
isn't the way that you tell who the clone is like there's a little bump
the
under
dots
your
under the eyes. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And so there's a big twist where he looks in the mirror and he sees he has the bump. And so the whole thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger is the whole movie is he's like, I hate clones, I hate clones, I hate clones. And he's like, oh, clones, they're not human, they're not human. And then at the end, he's like, oh, but how can you say you're not human? It's like, oh, real convenient that you change your tune on this the minute you have a clone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, you hypocrite. But the big thing of this movie is, because cloning is illegal, the minute that they find out that the bad guy is a clone, he loses everything. So he loses all of his money, and then he gets put down like a rabid dog. And I'm like, that's kind of where my suspension of disbelief kind of halts a little bit, because I'm like, or maybe the question of like, what is a human? Because like, from a genetic standpoint, the Arnold clone is a human. He's a human. Also, the cloning process is hilarious, and like, so they have basically these husks, like these blank copies that they have to like pull down into a tank, and then like, I don't know how else to describe it. Maybe Burkholder can help me describe it in the chat if they're still there. They like Xerox the person onto them. And then like the eye thing that you reference in the poster is basically it's recording what they call a syncording, which is like your entire memory up until the moment you made the syncording.
Oh, okay, that's what the eye thing is.
That's what the eye thing is. So they take...
That's the biggest thing that I remember from this movie is that scene where you see Schwarzenegger and he's got his chin is in the thing and his eyes are in the thing.
Yeah, that's the poster. Yeah. And so they then take that syncording and they upload it into the husk. And like over the husk, it essentially like Xeroxes the person over top of the husk. And so there's just like this tank of just like hundreds of them in like what I can only describe as like a dry cleaning, like, you know, like one of those, you know,
that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it's really, but so it's just like one of those things of like the way, I guess maybe in practice, it's one of those, like, the practice of this from a financial standpoint, because how he says it is like, oh, again, there's a bunch of twists in this movie. There's eventually another twist where the bad guy has given all of the clones genetic defects so that they'll die, so that they're, like, loyal to this company, so that they'll just keep bringing them back.
Burkholder says, the clone is a blank, printed with details, much like a 3D printer inside out.
Okay, yeah, that's a good analogy. But yeah, so he gives these clones genetic defects so that they'll get sick and, like, nearly die. So that for example, they have, like, a football player that works for them. Oh, you stay on our team, or we won't bring you back to life again. That's the concept. So I guess in, like, practice, you keep these things alive for, like, a while, and then just because they have these guys chasing after Arnold Schwarzenegger and he just keeps killing them, they keep having to, like, keep cloning people. But because I'm, like, just, like, having to, like, keep bringing in these, like, husks, it just seems like a prohibitively expensive endeavor to keep having to clone people as it's presented in this. But anyway,
Burkholder says, a blank is the only way to cheaply create and quickly create replacements.
Yeah, but, like, it never really explains where the blanks, how they're generated, or where they come from. They're just in, like, a seemingly endless tank, like, in a basement. It's very strange. This movie wants to be like, oh, the clones aren't considered human, but it never aims to answer the question of what is human. Because, like, genetically speaking, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the clone Arnold Schwarzenegger, is human. He's indistinguishable.
Oh, he's human. He's just not a person.
He's indistinguishable from the other Arnold Schwarzenegger, genetically speaking. So, like, what makes him human legally speaking, right? What makes him... Like, he's just as, like my thing is that they're like, oh, if they discover we're clones, they're gonna put us down like we're dogs. And it's like, are you seriously telling me, like, putting this into practical practice, that you're gonna look at Arnold Schwarzenegger in the eye and be like, yeah, man, we're gonna execute you for being alive, and while you can talk back to me? Like, there's no way you, like ethically, where are the ethics in that? There are no ethics in that. How is that not murder?
Burkholder says, in sixth day, they just print on blanks, and blanks are cheap compared to growing a zygote.
Yeah. That's another form of cloning. But I'm just saying, like to me, that's the question of this. That's the question of this movie for me, is what do you consider to be? Because to me, and so this movie had way more of a. It tries to be like, oh, you're a human if you have a soul. That's what makes you human. Because by the end of the movie, Arnold is still doubting whether he's human. And like, Arnold Prime, or the original Arnold, is like, yeah, you're human just as much as me. And I'm like, yeah, he's human just as much as you. Like,
yeah,
you have a consciousness, you have something that inhabits your body. Like, there's something that's puppeteering the meat suit, like, what makes a human? Like, that's what I found the most fascinating about the movies this week, is they answered that question, or they asked that question a lot.
Burkholder. So a blank is not a person.
But I mean, again, are you gonna look at clone Arnold Schwarzenegger and tell him?
I think it becomes a person as soon as you imprint that memory onto
that personality. As soon as it becomes Arnold Schwarzenegger, it legally speaking, I mean, we're arguing the ethics of a hypothetical thing, but to me, it's indistinguishable legally speaking. And it's funny, because that question of legally speaking, interestingly enough, is going to come back again, which is incredible. Another fun thing about this movie is it is filmed in Vancouver. And to the point that the climax, you literally see the Harbor Center and Science World in the background, and they never specifically, hold on, let me finish this thought. They never specifically, to my recollection, never specifically say what city the movie takes place in. So far as I'm concerned, this movie takes place in Vancouver.
That's awesome. Burkholder says, so if your DNA is duplicated, is it you? Maybe not. Is it legally you? Depends. Is it morally you? Maybe not.
But that's what I'm saying. Is like, as far as I'm concerned, how do you argue again? Like it or not, look, like it or not, within the context of this movie, like, what these people did was illegal, right? It was again, I'm arguing the morality of a movie,
So-
but hold on, let me quickly finish this thought. What the corporation did in that movie is technically illegal, right? They created human clones, but those human clones now exist. You can't just like put they exist. Like, the reason why that initial clone was put down was because it lost its mind and it was in agony. But these clones are perfectly capable of existing. You can't just put them down. They're like, to me, that's morally wrong. Like, there's nothing that makes them distinguishes them from humans. Like, maybe if they were in pain or were deformed, maybe. But and to be fair, no, that's at the end of the movie. They say that the Arnold Schwarzenegger clone doesn't have the defect that's going to make him sick. So he'll live out a full life. So, like, so far as he is concerned in his existence, he is human. So what does, the question, I think, therefore I am, Sorry, you were going to say something.
Two things. One, Burkholder says, the doctor's wife answers your question. Says, I am not her, I am an echo. But two, at this point, I would like to talk to Future Justin. Future Justin, I think Mewtwo says it all. The conditions of one's birth does not devalue the life of a clone. Put that famous quote that I'm messing up from Pokemon right here.
I will absolutely do that. Now.
What was it? The situation of one's birth. Hold on. I'm gonna. You keep talking.
Well, I was just to answer. You're right. Well, okay. The doctor's wife is what she says is technically correct. In the sense that she's not the doctor's wife, but in terms of like being a person, she is still a person who lived a life. Like, whether you want to make the argument that the new Arnold clone is not the original Arnold, sure, that is very fair. But he's still a Arnold clone, if that makes sense.
Here it is. And Justin put the actual thing back there. But I see now that the circumstances of one's birth is irrelevant. Is what you do with the gift of life that determines who you are.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if you want, I guess maybe if you make human cloning legal, then I suppose you can retroactively make it so. I suppose you can like will yourself it. But yeah, that was my question of this movie of like, where is your line of what makes a human? I think that'll probably be the title of the video, is what makes a human.
Burkholder says, in the movie, the doctor's wife says, not her, not entitled to her legal self.
I mean, yeah, well, that was also a part of the question of the ethics for me of that movie as well, of like, if you can consent to it, like, I think it's morally wrong in that movie because that doctor's wife did not consent to it, and he respected her consent ultimately by being like, she doesn't want to be brought back, and the moral line that I think the part of this that kind of bothered me was that it attempts to make the moral line of, this in and of itself is not necessarily bad, it's this guy's bad, but then at the end it does just be like, oh no, it's all bad. But because in my opinion, as long as the person can consent, like let's say I can be like, okay, I'm cool with this, I don't necessarily see anything morally wrong with it. Then now having one guy be the guy who gets to decide that is bad. That part of it is bad. But like I do think that the bad guy, who's Drucker, I think his name is, he at a point he kills the doctor and is like, I'm just gonna bring back you and your wife before we had this conversation, and you forget all of this. That's bad. That is unethical. But like if the doctor and the wife had consented to being cloned, I personally don't take inherent. I could see why one would, but I don't take inherent moral issue at that juncture. That makes sense.
That's fair.
Do you share a similar moral quandary?
I'm gonna save my thoughts for when we get to my movie Replicas.
Oh, fair. That is fair.
Because that movie to me is an example of why what you're talking about, cloning, it highlights to me an issue with it.
Right. And I think the question also, just to wrap up the sixth day, I also think that the question also is like, do you consider whether or not those human clones now exist? And obviously, I think in that universe, the law would need to catch up to that now, right? Unfortunately, they exist. I think the resolution of the movie is that they're still keeping it under wraps that clones exist. I think until they like die off. I think is the implication.
Burkholder says, so if I illegally copied you, what would you do? Want the copy destroyed? Want to verify and preserve your rights and want clone to live?
Well, that's yeah. I mean, again, the question of this in a legal sense is obviously would have to be discussed. But what I'm saying is, like in terms of cloning, if you consent to it, like if you're like, oh, I'm cool, I'm the one who's saying it's cool, and the clone knows that it's a clone, and at that point, I mean, obviously we're going to talk about multiplicity where that can go wrong. But I'm just saying.
What if you don't consent to it? Does that clone then have the right to continue to live, even though you, the original, did not consent to being cloned? That's where the sticky line.
Yeah, and that is definitely a line. But also, my point is just like in terms of the logic of this movie of being like, oh, they're not human, they should be killed. I think that new Arnold, second Arnold, is still a person. So I think that the law needs to obviously in that universe catch up to that, because he's a person with a like, to me it would be morally wrong. You would be ending a sentient life for no reason other than its existence, and that to me is morally wrong. It's just my point.
See, this is where it's a very sticky conversation, and there are parallels. There are things in going on in real life that I could draw comparisons to that would make this entire conversation uncomfortable, so I'm not going to do that. But what I will say is, yeah, even in real life, the definition of what is life and where does life begin is a widely debated topic by a great many people.
Yeah, exactly. In order to morally identify how to do human cloning, you have to identify what is human consciousness, and what is it? Because in my opinion, especially if in this context, you can prove that the consciousness wants to give that that clone rights. You know what I mean? Like, it's just an inherently understood idea that obviously the previous, like, especially at the end of this movie, because at the end of this movie it ends with the clones getting blown up. So the last clone of the bad guy, he gets all fucked up. So he's all fucked up looking, and it's immediately obvious he's a clone now because he's all fucked up looking. And then at that point it's like, oh, is that a person? It's a very disfigured person, but is it a person? The movie doesn't really answer that. It presents a lot of questions that it doesn't answer. It doesn't. It's weird because I don't see the idea of, like, I think when he's the scientist cloning organs for organ donors, you know what I mean, or organ donor recipients. I don't think that's inherently bad. And I think that the anti-cloning people who are presented as being good guys are just as bad as the bad. Like, I don't think that they're the good guys here. Maybe I don't know. That's just. So again, it's one of those topics. I understand people's apprehension. I just think I maybe have a different line. You know what I'm saying?
Everyone has a line.
Yeah. Jordan, what's your next one?
My next one is a romp, Justin. We're going back to comedy and fun because you've made this podcast diverge into
a sophisticated and nuanced discussion about clone ethics with a really funny comment. Sorry, to end the 6th day. If this is the final bit, just the clone of the bad guy was a badly cooked, rushed like a microwave meal. Which, Jordan, when I show you what he looks like later on, and I remind you of what he looks like, you will totally agree.
But I watched Multiplicity, which is a Michael Keaton
movie. We're on to have not seens now, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, Multiplicity is fun. That is not. Big thing that people don't realize about Michael Keaton is everyone just always goes, Michael Keaton, Batman. And big thing about Michael Keaton is people kind of forget he was a comedian. He was a stand-up comedian.
I think the reason why people choose to forget this one is because it didn't do very well. It had a budget of 45 million, and it only had a box office of 37 million.
Yeah, it's funny. A coworker recommended this movie to me, and I don't even remember why. I just remember that they recommended it to me, and I loved it.
It's a good movie.
I
really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's very much that trope of like each subsequent, like it's where one of my all time.
They're all different personalities.
Yeah, well, it's one of my all time favorite. Family Guy episodes with Bitch Stewie, like that's sort of a reference to this, of how each subsequent clone gets progressively like worse, not worse, but like a little dumber.
Yeah, well, to the point where when they get to the third generation, and the one clone is like, yeah, it's like a copy of a copy, you know, like a
yeah. We'll point the
really
clone
bad,
gets a clone, right?
yeah, like a really bad photocopy where the details get a little bit more blurred every time,
right?
And
yeah, copy of a copy, like a mimograph, funny and fun.
It's and then I love how like he's like, you know, rule number 1, nobody sleeps with my wife but me, and then at a certain point they all do, and even the really stupid one, and it's like, ooh,
I feel like he can't consent properly.
Yeah, that part.
So just remind me. It's been years since I've seen this movie. What's the mechanic of the cloning? Like, where does he get the clones from?
He works like building condos and doing construction and stuff, and he's working this one job, and this professor doctor guy is like, so it seems like you don't have enough time on your hands. Well, do I have the solution for you? And he's like, you know, I've been working on cloning basically, and I have a machine, and Michael Keaton doesn't believe him, and then the clone of the doctor walks out, and so then he gets cloned. And that's kind of it.
Fair.
And then there's more clones.
So then he just keeps going back to the doctor, and then the doctor is just making him more clones.
Well, so he goes to the doctor the first time, and he makes the one clone, and they have the division of labor of real one, and you can tell which one is the copy because behind the ear it has a number, so the real guy spends time with the family, and the clone is doing all the work, and then the clone is like, you know, yeah. I do all the work, and I don't have any company, and I believe it's him who gets cloned, and then that's where the sort of more feminine, in touch with his emotion clone comes in, and then I don't remember if it was him or which one of them goes and does the other clone, and that's when they get the stupid one, and that's where the main guy is like, yeah, no more clones. Like, no, that's no more. Like, that's enough. Yeah, no explanation on how the clones get made. Brilliant inventor and tiny lab. So he's like a doctor, professor, scientist dude.
And it's just like, you want more of you?
Basically, yeah.
So what happens to the clones at the end? Do they all die, or?
No, from what I remember, they end up like basically sailing off into the sunset, so to speak, where our main guy is kind of like, I've realized clones aren't the answer, and I need to have a healthy work-life balance and spend time with my family and at work, and not just try to, like, you know, avoid stuff and stuff like that. And if I remember correctly, as they are driving away, Laura sees them in the car next to her, believing that she's hallucinating. Laura tells her children that you can tell you really love someone when everyone you see reminds you of them. And then later, the clones write to Doug that they have set up a successful pizzeria called Three Guys from Nowhere in Miami, Florida, and masquerade as triplets.
I mean, yeah, I think, didn't you say that in one of the scenes where like a random stranger walks in and Michael Keaton hides him, and you're like, twins exist.
Yeah. There's a scene where they both end up at the same restaurant. The real guy is with his wife, and behind them, clone number one is with a woman like on a date. And they both end up in the bathroom, and like we can't be seen here. There's going to be too many questions, and then the waiter or something walks in, and real Michael Keaton pushes clone Michael Keaton's head down in the sink. He's like, "What? Haven't you ever seen a grown man give another grown man like face a wash?"
It's not weird.
And I'm watching this going like, he doesn't know you. You could just be clones. It's not like your wife walked in.
2024, 2025, it's not weird. It's weird.
I mean, that's also a possibility, but Burkholder says, I think he should lie and say his clones are his cousins.
I mean, they're a tad too identical for that.
For people that he knows, no, he couldn't get away with that. But no, for people he doesn't know, he could literally, and they do this later on, where real Michael Keaton walks in on the three clones who are with three girls, or maybe it's the point where there's only two of them, and he walks in on the two of them, and they're like, "Oh, so you're triplets, and you do all look identical," and like they've been saying that they're related.
Yeah,
right. Like they're
real
brothers.
easy.
Like
that's one thing about cloning stuff where I'm like, just say that you're like, going back, not to go back to the 6th day, but the same thing at the end of that movie. Just like, just be like your twin brothers. We're really and then like if people ask, oh what, because there's no such thing as like truly identical twins. Like you could just be like, oh yeah, my nose is like 2/3 of an inch off, and then people will look at your face like looking to and like their brains will fill in the rest. Psychological tricks.
One thing I appreciate about this one is they explain that up until the point of cloning, the memories are all identical.
Yeah.
So
I always appreciate that.
They are identical, but at that point they diverge and become their own people. And so I appreciate that in this one, like they treat the clones as individuals.
Right? I mean, I like, and the one thing about cloning movies, and we haven't talked about this so far, I meant to, but is again, these movies live and die on the actor's ability to interact with themselves believably. Arnold, Arnold's in the last one. It's all right. It's a bit stilted, but Keaton in this is great. His timing is so good.
Oh, he's so good.
Yeah, it's really believable. That's the number one thing is like, do I believe they're in the same room together? And it's like, yeah, I absolutely do.
I do for this one, absolutely. I really enjoyed this one though.
My thing is like when I'm always surprised when it's like they cross paths. I'm like, oh man, that's a technically impressive thing. And yeah, I knew you would. It's right in our wheelhouse.
It's impressive in this one considering it was in the 90s.
Yeah. The effect like that is like it's easy to do now, but back in the day that would require coordination of like body doubles and like. Yeah, my favorites are like when you can tell it's not them. Like, yeah, it's definitely not them. They don't even have the same head shape. God, this is lazy.
But that's all I have to say about Multiplicity.
That's good. I enjoyed Multiplicity. My first one I hadn't seen. This one I was pleasantly surprised by how much I liked it, and it's another one where it involves cloning, and it's a kind of pseudo, because all of these movies kind of take place in the future or like the near future, and the the island was it was a techno future. Same thing with the 6th day. It's a lot of like robots and futuristic flying cars and shit. And so this takes place in kind of a dystopian society where when you are about to die, basically, okay, sorry, let's back up. It stars Karen Gillan, and it's kind of, it's hard to explain. It's like...
Karen Gillan?
Yeah, Karen Gillan, yeah, it stars her. Oh. And it's a kind of like a dark comedy. It's kind of got it's one of those movies where like characters kind of say ridiculous things like straight, like kind of movies. It's really hard to describe, but Arnie, sorry. Karen Gillan plays a woman who
I'm gonna need you to stop dying on stream.
She's living in kind of a boring, like lifeless kind of life where like the movie literally opens where she's just chilling there watching adult movies. Her boyfriend calls and she lies to him and like, yeah, goes back to watching her adult movies. And she discovers that she's going to die. The doctor very coldly tells her she's going to die. And she's offered the opportunity to participate or to pay to participate. It costs a lot of money in this program where you are, I can't remember what they call it in the movie, but cloned. You're cloned. You're doubled. And you spend... Right. You spend the time before you're about to die teaching your double how to be you. And the more time you have before you die, the more time they have to effectively become you so that they can become you and replace you in your life so your family doesn't get sad when you die.
Okay.
And in the very rare case where you don't die, the clone has the legally constitutional right to challenge you to live. And you then fight your clone to the death on national... Sorry?
There can only be one?
There can be only one. And you fight your clone to the death on national television in like a gladiatorial style fight. And whoever dies, whoever lives, basically whoever kills the other one, gets to assume the identity, basically, legally speaking.
Okay.
And
all right, I'm following you.
And so once basically that has been decided, the original, they both have a year to prepare for this duel, essentially. And so and once basically in the rare instance it turns out that the person's not going to die. The other part of this is they can opt to have the clone be the only way you're allowed to do this is when you're dying, because legally speaking two of the same person can't exist at the same time. So when it turns out you're not dying, you can either opt to have your clone decommissioned. But if the clone applies to be a person, that's when the duel happens. And so the clone immediately like takes over her life and is just like a better version of her. And like one part of it, like, is she refuses to call her mom. She's become distant with the boyfriend, and so like the clone is like more attentive with the boyfriend. She talks to the mom, all that sort of stuff. And what the mom wants is not unreasonable. Like the mom just wants her to like be like hang out with her and spend time with her, but she acts like she's really put upon. It's a weird comedy. And so the original Sarah, she goes to train to do this duel so she'll live, because she ultimately decides that she's going to kill this clone and she's going to live. And so she meets up with Aaron Paul, who is a trainer who spends a year training her to kill this clone. And then a good portion of the movie is them like developing a friendship. And it hits a point where like she has to pay for this training to get better at killing him. And it gets to a point where the fight is coming up and it gets canceled due to this extreme weather storm. And Aaron Paul's like, if you want to pay for this, there's other ways you could pay for it that don't involve money. If you catch my drift. Please tell me you catch my drift.
I do. You don't need to do anymore.
And he says it twice, and so it gets so far. He's like, so how you said I could, and he's like yeah. And so there's a whole thing where he's like, in order to train for this fight, I need you to like work out outside of work. So find something to do to help you get into shape. And so the thing she chooses to do is take dance classes. And so this pays off, and he's like, okay, so yeah, you're going to do this, whatever for me. It's implied that it's that. And it turns out that no, he just wanted her to teach her how to do hip-hop breakdancing. And so this is like extended sequence of him teaching her hip-hop breakdancing. And Unfortunately, Jordan and audience, I'm going to have to spoil the end of this movie. But it is a good movie, and it is totally worth checking out. Karen Gillan is really good in it. She does a dual role of both, obviously her and the clone. So uh, she does all this training, and she runs she sees the clone, and on instinct, she tries to shoot the clone, which escapes, and she runs after the clone, and she corners her, and it's like, you can't kill me before the duel, like that's illegal or whatever, that's against the rules. And they start to like reconnect and develop a friendship, because part of the whole thing is early on she obviously has to kind of develop a friendship with her, and as she wasn't dying, they kind of became friends and then kind of grew despondent with each other. But she kind of becomes friends with her again, and they eventually decide that, oh, they're going to escape. Like no one has ever tried to escape. Like one of them has tried to escape, but usually they get collected and taken back. No one's ever tried to escape together, and so they try to escape together. And the clone, like, it's poisons Sarah, the original, and sort of hints that, unlike the entire time, she's like, yeah, we've both been preparing for this. Oh yeah, we've totally both been. It's not like we didn't spend the entire year not preparing for this and weren't prepared at all. And so it's sort of hinted that the clone, unlike the original, spent no time preparing for this duel and just didn't do anything, and so chose to poison Sarah, the original, and kills her with poison and disposes of the body, and pretends to be her and takes over her life anyway. And then, like, in the end, ironically,
so she cheats.
Yeah, essentially. And she ends up taking over the original's life anyway, and in the end just becomes trapped in the original's life like the original was, and becomes the original anyway, in a bit of irony.
And then the sequel is she clones herself, and we have the clone wanting to fight a new clone.
Yeah, but I was surprised. I was like, this is kind of interesting. The idea of, like, yeah, two of you can't exist, and that everything that they just, how dispassionately they're okay with what is effectively a version of the Hunger Games. Like I say, Karen Gillan is quite good in it, and the ending is a fun little twist. It's funny. It's very funny. I can't think of the best comparison I can think of in terms of just, it's a weird, dry sense of humor that you would get. It's very similar to the Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson, like that kind of sense of humor, like that kind of dry sense of humor.
So weird.
Yeah, kind of weird. Yeah, it like there's some lines and some jokes in it that were like, I genuinely laughed out loud. Like, it was very funny. In a way that's like, it was an interesting take on cloning. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Fully recommend. Dual, Dual, Dual.
Okay. Do you have anything else to say?
I do not.
Any other final thoughts?
There are none, no.
All right. Well, my last have seen is a movie called Replicas, which is Keanu Reeves movie.
Yeah. So, okay. Before you jump into this, I just want to say what I thought this movie was, because based upon its description, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie called, and I promise it's related, because it popped up on a list of cloning movies, and I didn't consider it a cloning movie. But there's a movie called Surrogates with Bruce Willis, where they like plug their consciousness into like incredibly realistic looking like robot people that like look exactly like humans but are technically robots, so it's not technically clones. And based upon the description of what I read in the Wikipedia when I looked this up, that's what this sounded like. And I was like, oh, is this actually clones? So, Jordan, is this actually clones? That was my big lead up.
This is actually clones.
Interesting. It's Keanu Reeves, right?
Yes, it's Keanu Reeves. It starts with Keanu Reeves as a bioengineer. What is it?
Bioengineer? I don't know.
Hold on. Neuroscientist. That's the word I was looking for. He's a
Neuroscientist.
neuroscientist. Um, and um, so he's supposed to be working on transferring the mind of a dead soldier into an android with superhuman strength. It's codenamed Subject 345.
Wait, just
Foster.
real quick. Do we get a big CGI robot fight?
We get a robot.
Is it not
fights.
that kind of movie?
It's not really that kind of. But it's an android and kind of.
It's an android and kind of.
It's not really the point, but kind of. Um, um, and so yeah, Keanu Reeves' character basically is supposed to be trying to put this soldier's consciousness into the android, but at the beginning of the movie he does that. Android wakes up. Um, it's not surrogates. It's replicas is what we're talking about. Burkholder.
Yeah. So I was just using that as a reference point. Like that's what when I was reading about this movie because I looked into watching this and then Jordan was like, I want to do it, and I was like, fair.
But yeah, no. Basically, the consciousness wakes up and freaks the fuck out because it's like, I'm in a robot body. What the fuck is going on? And kills itself. So not a success.
Not a success at all.
And Foster, Keanu, I'm going to refer to him as Keanu.
Just call him Keanu Reeves. That's what I do.
Keanu Reeves takes his wife and his 3 children on a boating trip.
So for the occasional moments where you remember the name of the character. Sorry, go
on. Sorry. Burkholder says, if you want, discuss Star Trek Generation Riker clone.
I've not actually seen that. I will be one day watching that. Continue on.
So Keanu Reeves takes his family to do a boating trip. There's an accident on the way, and everyone except for him die in a car crash. And he is determined to resurrect his family. He coaxes one of his co-workers, Ed, to bring the bodies back, create neural maps of his family, and then get rid of the original bodies so they can clone new bodies and then put their consciousness into the new clone bodies.
Okay. Oh, so that's an interesting twist. So it's not like a copy of the memories. It straight is their memories.
It is their memories, which he has.
But is it
mapped onto? They have this technology, basically this thing, which he maps it onto, and that's where, in the beginning of the movie, that device is what they're using to put the consciousness into an android body. But instead of doing that, he is putting it into an actual cloned body, which they grow in a tank. And it's a point where in the movie where the assistant dude is basically like, we have to get their minds into the bodies like now and get them out of the tanks, because if we leave them in the tanks for too long, they will be older than their memories coincide with.
Interesting.
But they also don't have enough tanks to bring, and this is where the ethics of it all really comes into it, if it hasn't already for you. They don't have enough tanks for his entire family. So he has to choose which of his family members doesn't get brought back, and then he makes the other family members that he is bringing back forget about that one family member.
Ooh.
So he in a decision where how could you ever decide which of your family members you don't bring back? He chooses his youngest daughter to not bring back. Because they don't.
There wasn't like a set of in-laws. He could have like, the mother-in-law's got to go.
No, it's only his family which he needs to bring back. And he would have. To be fair, he would have brought the daughter back, but they didn't have enough tanks.
Fair. That's fair.
So it was a real. He had a bad choice to make, and so yeah, over the course of the movie, then the people that he works for basically show up and want the algorithm that him and his partner um, came up with um, because it was successful, basically, and they want to sell it and be able to make an army of android for war purposes and stuff. And they found out about the clone family because the assistant didn't get rid of the original bodies, and then they were found, and that's how it was all discovered. So when you ask about the android fight, there's a point in the movie where Keanu is basically like, I remember that, like, I've deleted all the other records of everything, but I remember it all. And they're like, if you don't want us to kill your clone family, you're gonna basically make it work for us. And he's like, okay, fine, I will. And then he puts his own consciousness into the robot. So then you have robot Keanu and human Keanu, and robot Keanu goes and like attacks the bad guys. So there is robot fighting.
Wait. So wait, there's two Keanus and they team up?
Yeah.
That sounds rad. Is it rad?
Basically, it's pretty rad.
That sounds rad.
Basically, I'll read your comments.
We'll touch on that in a minute.
But basically, the way that it ends is Keanu says to the guy that had his boss or whatever that had been harassing them. He was basically like, if you fuck off and leave me and my new clone family alone, instead of letting you stay dead, Robo Keanu will put your body into a new, like, put your mind into a new clone, and you can sell clone transfers to wealthy people and give them a second life and get super rich.
Sounds like the bad guys are winning.
The bad guys kind of won.
It sounds like the bad guys won. But Burkholder is talking about making reference
Riker.
to Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I guess evidently there was an episode. Jake, we're watching. He could help me out. He's Star Trek. But there's apparently an episode with a Riker clone where new home, and it sounds like it's something that was touched upon in this movie. Your brain, the new body can't handle having a new consciousness put in it. It freaks out. Left on a planet. So pay attention to Riker conversation. Riker abandoned on planet believed to be dissipated like a mist, argues when found and recovered that he has rights to the life, the job, real personhood. He's given his own. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The clone becomes his own person. He's not the original Riker, but he's like a new Riker.
Offshoot.
Yeah.
He's Riker 2A.
That's how I would articulate it.
But yeah, so basically this movie ends with Robo Foster, Robo Keanu, and Dude are selling clone transfers to wealthy people, and Foster is able to retire in peace with his family, including the newly cloned Zoe. So he does end up cloning the youngest daughter.
So like, this movie just operates under the clones are just they're the originals now.
Basically.
Oh, interesting. That's interesting. So is Keanu a clone?
No,
he's not a clone.
Keanu was the only one who survived the car crash.
Oh, he wasn't a clone.
Which is why, but Robo Keanu, it depends on what you consider a clone. Robo Keanu is Keanu's mind mapped onto an artificial body. Is that a clone? It's cloned his mind.
I see what you did there. That's a nice. I don't know. It's a question, I guess.
That's where you like. Where do you draw the line?
This movie sounds rad. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It is pretty good. I would recommend it.
I think when we do one of our occasional revisits to previously talked about stuff, I might have to watch this because this sounds rad.
See, Burkholder, that's where it really depends on where you draw the line. It's a different body, technically, but it's the mind of his family completely copied and put into a new body, and his original family no longer exists. So it's a real ship of Theseus situation
Ah.
where how much of the ship do you have to replace before it's a completely new ship?
Are you glad? Are you like me, and you're glad that you know that because it's a really good analogy and it makes you sound smart?
Yes,
It's
I
just a
am.
thing you can drop at a party where you're like, "Ship of Theseus, philosophical."
Burkholder says Robo Keanu is like a vacation home or a second bedroom.
That's what I'm saying. In that
It,
you need it, obviously. Um,
or you want it
is
anyway.
that it, Jordan?
And they do update K1K metal.
Huh.
Okay.
All right then, Jordan. Is that it?
That is it. It's a good movie.
It sounds pretty
I
good.
recommend checking it out. It's fun.
My final one, Jordan, is a movie that's on Netflix. It's a movie called They Cloned Tyrone. And it takes place in
It's a it's
a
a it's a movie about how they cloned Tyrone, I'm
they
guessing.
indeed cloned Tyrone. It takes place in a ghetto, and John Boyega plays a gentleman named not Tyrone. I forget what the actual character's name is. Um, and he's a drug dealer in like a black ghetto, and his friends are hopefully you can't hear that. Woman of the
You
night.
mean you, you mean the beeping that's directly outside my window? Yeah, I'm sure they can hear it.
Sorry, audience at home. Hopefully that ends quickly. Come on, it's very distracting. Come on,
It is
man.
very
That's
distracting.
really not cool. Sorry. There we go. Yeah, he's a drug dealer who lives in a ghetto, and his friends are a woman of the night, you know, and a her person who runs her business for her, played by Jamie Foxx. And this is a very funny movie. And basically, they discover because he gets ends up getting killed by a rival drug dealer and shows up the next day somehow still alive, and they end up uncovering a conspiracy in which it turns out that I guess the government, some mysterious evil corporation, somebody has a basically is using this neighborhood to study or to utilize eugenics to effectively whitewash black people into becoming white people, taking all of the
That sounds very offensive.
taking all of their like what the bad guy deems to be their less desirable characteristics and like selectively breeding them out of them. And basically all of the people in this little ghetto are all clones, all endlessly cloned to basically keep this ghetto bad, to make it into like a control. And it's also kind of a funny movie. There's my favorite line from it early on. They're all really solid performances. Jamie Foxx is really good. John Boyega really good. But I forget her. I don't know what the actress's name is, but the woman playing the female friend is also good. There's a really funny joke early on where he picks up a young kid who is his friend, and they're driving around, and the kid's like, "Oh, do you like SpongeBob?" And the guy's like, "No, I don't like SpongeBob." Are you sure you don't watch SpongeBob? Like, "No, I don't watch SpongeBob." And he's like, "Oh, you're being a real Squidward right now." And he's like, "I'm not being a Squidward." He's like, "So you do watch SpongeBob?" So that's funny. That's good. And I think that's really good. I'm pretty sure it was Kiefer Sutherland shows up as he's like this army general guy with this like real funny. It's the same. It's funny because it's the same. He's in Monsters vs. Aliens. He's the general.
Oh yeah,
It's the same voice.
Really?
Yeah, it's this. I swear, it's
That's
the
funny.
same voice. And then so yeah, the big twist of it. It turns out that the clones are all clones of the same guy, basically. This head geneticist, and that all of the clones kind of have the same backstory of when they were a kid. He was killed by I think it was like a gang member or something, and so he became a geneticist to do the eugenics to do that to make black people in his perception better. Yeah, and it's quite good. It's on Netflix. It's quite good. I'm in an attempt to keep details vague, trying to. It's one of my favorite things of like I love it when you have characters who are like they're incredibly stereotyped characters, but they're into like really like I suppose a black person would call it like white people shit. So like
White people shit.
the female lead, she's into Nancy Drew, and so her whole thing is that this as they're solving the mystery of what this conspiracy is, she's like, yeah, I'm Nancy Drewing this shit, and she's just
Allie would.
I know it's really funny. And their big thing is like they like a Hollow Man. They keep referencing Hollow Man, and so when the Kiefer Sutherland shows up, he's like the head of this experiment or whatever, and she's like, "Oh, you're Kevin Bacon," and he's like, "What?" He's like, "Hollow Man, motherfucker." I enjoyed it. I was like, this movie's funny.
Would you recommend it?
I would, yeah. Sorry, do they update K1K Metal or do they diverge? Not a deceptive title. It's okay. I'm assuming you're referring to They Clone Tyrone. Well, if you're referring to They Clone Tyrone, the name comes from at the end of the movie. You find out that you see that there's another clone who is named Tyrone, who exists in another ghetto in LA, who has the exact same.
Who they did in fact clone.
Yeah, he's also a clone, and he is exactly the same. You know what? I'm gonna have to look up the name. But he's exactly the same as the character we've been following the whole movie. He has like the same friends, the same.
Oh my God! Stop with the beep beep.
Enough
beeping.
with the beep beep beeping. He has the same friends. And he has Fontaine. That's what the character's name is. He has the same friends. He lives in the same situation, implying that because early in the movie they say like they have these experiments set up all throughout the country. They're like, oh, America is an experiment, and it's all about directing America. And the friends, the Jamie Foxx and the girl. They're like, we're gonna go off and continue to fight these cloning people, and yeah, John Boyega at the end just joins them. But yeah, it was really good. It was really, I was surprised by how funny it was. I was like, this is quite funny, and the acting is good. Like I say, it's really funny when stereotype people just say mundane. For me, it's just funny when they say like mundane stuff sandwiched in between. Yeah, really intentionally, I think stereotyped dialogue. Yeah, it's really good. I enjoyed it. Fully recommend. It's on Netflix. I think that's it. I think we're at the end of our, I guess, technical 100 subscriber special.
It's clones, Justin.
It was clones. It's just clones. Yeah, and hey, maybe if we're still only at 100 subscribers next week, maybe we'll do a full proper 100 subscriber special. Who's to say?
100.
100. There, we did it. We indulged it a little bit. Now, Jordan, I suppose you're probably wondering, what are we going to talk about next week? What's the assignment for next week, Jordan? You're asking yourself.
What are we going to talk about next week, Brain?
Same thing we talk about every week, Jordan. Movies and television.
Media analysis.
He's Pinky. I'm the brain. In this analogy, I'm the brain. No. The assignment for next week, Jordan, is when I was watching everything everywhere all at once. It made me go, I want to do kung fu martial arts movies. So thinking, and especially because I didn't get to talk about the one, so maybe I'll carry it over to next week. So I'm talking Jackie Chan. I'm talking Jet Li. I'm talking Kung Fu martial arts movie. Hey, if you want to watch Kung Fu Panda, I wouldn't blame you. But as long as it involves Kung Fu martial arts in some capacity.
Interesting.
That's next week.
Interesting.
That's neat. Everyone was Kung Fu fighting. I want to do one of the ones I'm probably just going to claim right now is I want to do Forbidden Kingdom.
It's a cartoon. Brain is a cartoon. Pinky and the Brain.
Pinky and the Brain? Ooh, that might be, you're 65, that might be a tad after your time. Yeah, it's an animated cartoon from the 90s.
Carry over and talk about one.
I
Are
don't.
those movies?
I'm not sure, but that's next week. Next week we're gonna talk about martial arts stuff.
We're gonna talk about kung fu fighting.
Some Jackie Chan, it's like Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee, Jet Li, all those guys. It'd be really fun. I kind of want to talk about the Forbidden Kingdom. I really like that movie.
Be fast as lightning.
But that's next week. That's coming next week. Jordan, where can thanks Eastland Burkholder. Jordan, where can Eastland Burkholder find if they're still hanging out? Where can they find you when you're not here?
I mean, if they like video games and want to watch me play Minecraft, I do Minecraft Monday on Twitch. SethGore187. Which one of us two is Brain? Justin's the brain. I'm Pinky.
He's Pinky. I'm the brain. Go after this. After this, this is homework. After this, go look up Pinky and the Brain. I'm the brain. He's Pinky.
I'm Pinky.
That's all you need to know for that reference to sink in later. Jordan, where can the Minecraft Monday?
Minecraft Monday, SethGore187. I'm here on the weekends. It's sometimes Saturdays. It's sometimes Sundays. No one ever really knows.
We like keeping the audience on their toes, Jordan. That's what we do here. Yes, you can find me if you're on TikTok. You can find me on TikTok at Justin Spurr. I'm getting more political lately because I'm feeling feisty, but I'm still on there.
Eastland Burkholder says, "Can you drop YouTube link?"
Yeah, I can throw it in. I'll throw it in the description.
Or in the comments.
Or in the comments afterwards. Anyway, I'm on TikTok. Justin Spurr. The show is on TikTok. It's the Spur of the Moment P. If you're like, I want the podcast in shorter, minute-long bursts, you can go do that there. That also happens here, but the shorts out here as well. I put out, try to put out as many long-form, digestible videos in a week as I can. So if you're like, I don't want to watch a 3-hour podcast, but I want to watch a 20 to 30-minute video, that's cool. I got videos of that too. A more recently popular one was we did a Harry Potter video with our good friend Allie from Literature and Lingerie. That has done exceptionally well.
Yay!
If you want to sponsor the show, like our good friends at Audible did today, you can email the show at It's Justin's Business. If you, for some reason, want to come be part of this circus, you can fill out the Google form in the description. Go to artemedia.org, check out those guys. Jordan, am I missing anything?
No, I think Discord.
Discord, oh yeah, yeah, you can join our Discord. I fixed the link so it should never expire now. So you can click that and go leave suggestions. Join that, leave suggestions for us to watch. Once again, we keep singing the praises of Allie, but she has left us several great suggestions for stuff. That's a great place to do that. Leave comments, subscribe if you haven't, we're on Spotify. I always forget to mention this. We joke about we're on Spotify. If you prefer this in audio form, the audio version does go up on here, but we're also on Spotify. Check us out on Spotify. I really should put the Spotify in the description as well. I'm now thinking about that. It's probably bad that I don't. Follow us on Spotify.
Yeah, it is bad that you don't. Yeah.
Thank you to all 100 of our subscribers. That's real cool to have everyone who's decided to come along with us. We appreciate you. That's really neat. Here's to 1,000. That's the next milestone.
Really? We're going to jump past 500?
Yeah.
I feel like 500 should be the next milestone. 500.
500 is the next milestone.
And then 1,000.
Then 1,000. Anyway, we'll see everyone next week. Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you next Saturday. Have a good one.
Ciao for now.